and carrying mid-corner speed much faster than the McLaren. Here comes Leslie looking at the back of Bruno Cadilli at the moment. So this isn't over yet, and Leslie in the third Bentley is also trying to get past now, and that'll put Bentleys in the top 3 positions here.
Can I also point out they are starting to catch up to back markers as well. So we were talking about different driver skills throughout, with a little bit slower drivers, guys that are not as on the pace as everyone else. They're now going to catch up to it. And now it's the thinking game of how are you going to continue your competition and utilize back markers. Bruno loses it though. Light tap from Leslie Oliphant, and Bruno loses it into the dirt. Able to keep it going,
so
but
Leslie Oliphant
getting very, very close, and it looks like he might have just given them a little nudge, and unfortunately cost Bruno Cadilli a lot of time there. So not a happy camper, but you can be sure that Bruno Cadilli has taken a deep breath and is now on a monster charge to climb up. So Leslie Oliphant up into 3rd place, and he needs to catch up to Daniel Rowe as fast as possible, because that will then allow him to try and use back markers to his advantage, while Szymanski, our leader, has to deal with back markers that doesn't hold him up too much. And I mean, you've got the best way to
everyone around me.
Now they have to work through the corners, and that is going to be a major impact. So let's see.
Do you have a new link now? Because now it's working.
Well, we're about to find out. Szymanski making contact with the 81 car.
Yeah, train in 2 hours 41 minutes.
But that's given Rowe the opportunity he needed to just close that gap almost instantly. And it's really hurt him, because it's now a nice long straight. I think it's the 34 car that he made contact with. I'm not 100% sure. But someone got sent.
Okay. As our chat saying, Lars Puerto would be proud of the punts if that's the case.
That was fantastic.
That was full lead, car 420. They were down in 35th place. So this is what we were saying just now about starting to do the field lapping. And the guys they've got to be a little bit patient here and work their way through. I'm also seeing a couple of penalties being issued. Our solo driver Richardson getting a 15-second penalty down in 27th place, and a few other drivers. And we can see the leading cars and the other cars coming through and flashing at the back markers. So everyone's in a rush now. But I don't know if there was contact there. He was very close. So should Leslie get a penalty or carry a 15 or 20-second penalty? We'll see it pop up on the timing sheet.
I mean, I must be honest, it didn't look like it was contacting. It looked like a little bit of a one of those things that happens in sim racing where you do have connection issues between drivers. There's a little bit of rubber banding, and it literally, I couldn't see a contact, but obviously it sent Bruno spinning round. The 666 recovered though, and little tap around, maintains 7th place.
The battery ready, next lap,
there's the penalty.
Coming down.
They got a 5-second penalty.
Okay, so there was obviously a touch that did come down. The stewards have confirmed it. Didn't look like too much of a touch from our side, but
that's been changed to a 10-second.
10 second. I mean, I was going to say 5 seconds felt unfair if there was a touch, and 2 team principals here, Alan and myself. It's nice to have our drivers coming into contact with another.
Yeah, it's not really nice.
It's not really nice. Makes for some awkward stream engagements though. It's like, I'm going, can we get a 15-second penalty? Alan's like, 10 seconds.
And look here, we've got the McCalls in the pits. So this is the first of the big hitters going into the pits, and that's with 40 minutes in.
That's a very, very early pit stop coming through, eh?
That is, unless they were running a lighter fuel load to try and have a performance-driven car, and it hasn't worked out too well through the traffic.
Well, Richard, we seem to be the only ones not running into each other. So our commentary, we're still on good grounds. We're still good.
We're still good. Yeah, no, we're still 100%. There's no time penalties between us. We're still.
I mean, we're still all good. Alan and I are still so good. I mean, he got his 10-second time penalty, so we're still good. If there was no time penalty, it might have been different. But I mean, it's it's interesting. I mean, in the chat, Leslie saying indicating to his teammates that there was no contact, no damage, and that's honestly genuinely as a commentator who is viewing that, it just looked like it was a netcode issue, and the live stewards they supersede what we say as an opinion. So it's nice to have the live stewards here able to assist and have a look into incidents. So throughout the field, though, this is where things start to get interesting because people are struggling with tires or fuel loads or strategies because the time gaps have started to close themselves in. Menard all over the back of Artens there. The number 99 Mercedes looking to better his position up here, make his way up towards the top 10. Arten's going to go very defensive though on the way down the Wellington Straight, will secure the inside line. But how does this work out for the number 99? Does he set himself up for a cutback? He doesn't, runs wide himself and opens up the opportunity to play car. That's it.
Go put in a
Good to see the to play
thing.
Boys here within the top 15, sitting in 13th place. Yes,
position change up at the lead.
Front, yes.
Rowe and Szymantyński, they were right in the thick. Yeah, all three Bentleys next to each other.
Little tap sending that Mercedes off to the outside, but look at this. This is tight racing between the three front runners. Daniel Rowe in the sandwich inside line. Leslie Oliphant looks like he wants to try and tuck his way through onto the front splitter cam. We go. Where does Leslie get his way through? Out through Vale and on to the back end of the straight they go. A little bit of room for Daniel Rowe to breathe, but he's got all of Szymantyński in front of him and so much to play for. The pressure is on. The blue flags are waving for back markers to get out of the way of these guys because they are carrying some serious pace. And one small slip up could cost them a positional change. Daniel Rowe late on to the brakes, looking for the inside. He just sends it on the inside, and Szymantyński actually turns out from that, avoids contact, but Daniel Rowe doesn't feel like that was the case. He wants to take this regardless, and down the back end, out through Aintree, the move is done, and the lead changes once again. G-Force Retro takes over the lead here for the Speed Labs 10 hour of Silverstone, brought to you by Resource Complete, PWSR Black Ribbon Simulations in partnership with Racing Club International. Thank you guys for joining us, and we have seen a lead change. Leslie Oliphant with that time penalty, putting the pressure onto Szymantyński now, knows that the mental advantage is his. The position has been lost already, and the hard work has been done. Leslie just needs to capitalize on this now.
Absolutely. Now, you've got to remember that you've got that 10 seconds. So throughout the race, they've got to take cognizance of it and say, if I want to be in position 2 or 3, I need to have a 10-second spacing between myself and my competitor behind me heading towards it. So you've got to think about the penalty a little bit, and you keep reminding yourself that you've got to try and open up that 10-second gap. But the Bentleys all duking out with each other. Unfortunately, one of the back markers already had damage to the front of these Mercedes, getting a little bit of a nudge as all three of these guys. Now, we spoke about it earlier about the faster cars having to just calm down a little bit and battle their way through. And unfortunately, a little bit of collateral damage came in the form of one of the back markers getting sent off.
Number 11, Werner Jabeur, caught out the short end of the stick on that engagement.
But I can tell you from personal experience, if you're in the car and you've got 3 major Bentleys coming and hunting you down, there's not much room on the circuit, and it's one of the most frightening things to actually see.
Yeah, especially, like you said, the front 3 Bentleys arriving 3 abreast in the corner.
If we do I'm just doing the sums obviously as a team principal. It'll put Leslie currently net 8th at the moment, just behind Ross Bartle.
Which is 100% what that penalty should serve out, right? Bruno is the one that lost out, so he should be a position ahead. So I think they've done a good calculation there. I was also doing that same calculation. I was like, no, 15 seconds would be unfair. 10 seconds is right.
Oh, thanks, George.
No, it's all good. We're all good now. We're all good. I retract my extra 5 seconds.
Awesome.
Take a look at Leslie Oliphant, still keeping the pressure on Szymantyński as much as possible, trying to keep it to the toe and utilize as much circuit as possible to really throw that Bentley around. And now it is going to be a very tricky one because Daniel Rowe is starting to pull a massive gap, 1.1 seconds ahead. And he has to just keep on going while the 2 behind him have a big knife fight. but Clue is hanging on to the coattails. He's waiting for the opportunity. I think it's very, very clever of him to do so. He knows that the drivers are pushing. He knows that the guys are literally forcing their way around the circuit. And that's allowing Clue and Kruger to slowly climb up. And Gregor, who's only 0.5 of a second behind Kruger, is also trying to make a bit of movement there. So very, very interesting at the beginning of the race. How these guys are going to be able to do it. You can just see Leslie looking left and right. He's trying to see where's there a kink in the armor, sees that there's a back marker ahead of him. Now hoping that that back marker can get in the way of Spencer so he can box him in and get past. But we're going to see if that's even going to be possible. It might be possible, but
it's going to happen right here at the windy section. If it is, here it happens.
No, not this time. Back marker decides he's not going to have his race ruined, so he decides to lift off the throttle, allow the cars to get by, and then get going once again. So very clever move there.
Very clever. Good driving by everyone.
Yeah, the situational awareness. These guys are not in my race. I'm going to let them go past. I'm going to focus on what I'm doing. So that's at least a good aspect for them. Of, okay, calm down, let the guys go, keep up the pace and keep up the consistency. That'll get you going. Spencer losing a little bit of time, and that's allowed Leslie Ultimate to get a little bit closer. Leslie had to just back off to try and get the Bentley a little bit more settled. And I wonder if the Bentleys are starting to feel it a little bit here. They've been pushing hard from the start of the race. Will they be able to keep it going throughout the race like this? It looks like, oh, might have been seen on the car start off in the background as well as we look at the back of the Bentley can on
network banding attempts.
I can also just, after having watched this, I've been watching this stream from the helicopter view, and Sherman Tinsky has run very deep going through Maggots and Beckett's on more than one occasion, as well as turn one through Cops. And I think he's trying to push to get away from Leslie, but what that I guarantee has done is issued him with a possible off-track excursion, and you get 4 of those, and then you need to do a drive-through. So the guys need to also keep that in mind. As big as Silverstone is, and as I know in some areas it measures 7 meters wide, so it is one of the wider tracks. But if you push the envelope and you run too wide and off track, you're going to run risk of giving away a drive-through penalty, and that's hemorrhaging a lot of time.
That's a lot of penalty.
Kinetic sim racing and the likes of BWR are starting to put some pressure on each other. You have Brandon Kruger in that KSR Pulse number 97 all over the back end of Clue as they come down into Village, the loop. Where does he go? Does he find some inside line? Very neat and tidy from the McLaren, but a lot of speed carried out from Kruger, but not enough to hold on to the back of Clue, and Clue will maintain a car's length, but that's a lot of pressure coming on from the number 97, and that number 27 McLaren has been feeling that pressure over the course of the last 5 or so laps. So very interested to see if those McLarens are running out of tires. We saw Bruno struggling earlier, and this would be then the next best McLaren in terms of position, the BWR Vipers being the front-running McLaren at this point, and Lionel Clue comfortably just holding off at this point. But I don't think it's going to be comfort for long as Brandon Kruger starts to turn up the heat corner by corner. Daniel Rowe, what a drive it is for him. I mean, the GeForce Retro boys, very proud of the race that they've had so far. And for Daniel Rowe, it's the start that he needed. He's managed to keep his head in place. He started, had some early battles coming down, and then managed to really, really nail things. Followed Sherman Tinsky past Bruno Kedili to take over the race lead eventually, and now sitting 1.7 seconds ahead of Sherman Tinsky. So actually one of the bigger gaps we've seen between the leaders, 2.1 seconds should we say. So that number 43 Bentley on absolute fire. So maybe there's a little bit of method in the madness as to why the Bentleys got picked up, and we see them sitting in first, second and third at the moment. Massive stuff coming out from the GeForce Retro team.
Yeah, from a team principal point of view, just overhearing the guys talk during the past 2 weeks in the warm-up to this, the discussion was clearly focused straight away either on Bentley or McLaren. It wasn't even a negotiable part about them using the usual team cars or the Lambos or the Lexus or anything else. And I think the understanding is also from previous experience how quick the McLarens have been on Silverstone, and the Bentleys with the longer wheelbase just seem to deal with the faster corners a lot better than the mid-engined cars and the likes of Audi, Honda, and Porsche.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I mean, from DKZ perspective, they didn't even talk about it. They were the new Mercedes done, you know, the new engine, but that's what they've all been playing. They've been working hard on it, so they were like, agreed, this is what we all like. You know, there was no discussion around McLaren versus Bentley or anything like that. So I mean,
Kruger got past Clue pretty comfortably there as well, Richard. Sorry, you can carry on there as well. But KSR Pulse just getting themselves up into the top 4 there, and now on the chase down for that Patterson Works Simulation Racing team up in front of them. PWSR are certainly here to represent, holding down third place at the moment. Gripax in second place, and G4 Sim sitting up in first. I really like to see the improvements in all the teams we've seen over the last couple of months, and a lot of pressure coming out from a lot of the drivers here in terms of, you know, making sure that their teams are well represented, getting drivers together, and I think going forward with the season, that's just going to continue to grow. More team principals, more teams, starting to stamp their dominance on the scene, and it's really needed in sim racing, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Have a look, gentlemen, while we're just idling along here. Races, we've just gone through the first hour of 10 hours, so 9 hours on your way. But look at the drivers listing, the overall positions up at the top. 4 Bentleys in the top 5 positions, and then 3 McLarens right behind them. So
only Aston was busy trudging on at this point. That's Kruger just trying to make his way up through the field and work his way around the back mark without losing time. And that's the one thing I've noticed about the Aston. It doesn't eat the tires as hard as the McLaren. McLaren has a little bit of a trick to it of its left-hand rear on the circuit. Starts getting worn out a lot quicker, starts getting a lot hotter than the rest of the tires. And I'm not sure if it's just that the quirk of the car, but it's something that the guys have to take note of, because like the Aston Martin, it tends to wear down the tires a little bit easier and a little bit more consistent over all 4 tires. The Porsche tends to scrub its front a lot, so I wonder how long the McLarens are actually going to hold before that left rear starts becoming a bit of a problem for the guys.
I think also it's also taken into account the new tyre model that's been introduced, the Michelin tyres. We've experienced now this happen where there's a new element of graining that occurs mid-session, and then that actually goes away and the tyre comes back to the car in the last part of the session. So I think although we won't know what the fuel levels are, what the loads are on the cars and who's running heavier weights, let's just keep our eyes out on the top 6, top 8 cars to see the different pit strategies, because they're due to be pitting in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Look at the pressure. Yeah, Leslie Oliphant all over the back of Sherman Tinsky, and this has been building up over the last couple of laps as well. All that pressure coming down. The number 81 goes very deep to the right-hander.
Did you also see onto the old the new start-finish line, Shematinsky ran very wide, and I think he is looking in his mirrors a lot at Leslie, and it's causing him to make little mistakes, which I think that's going to add up later on, possibly mid 4-5 hours. A lot of these guys might have drive-throughs to deal with.
That's the way to, as you put it, hemorrhage time that you really don't want to. And as the race goes on for 10 hours, more and more driver fatigue is going to come in. And I mean, that's something to bring into driver fatigue. Now, when we talk about driver fatigue, we're not talking about you physically, your muscles are hurting and all that. Yeah, of course, feedback up a little bit. You might feel it in your wrists. But the aspect that comes into it is your eyes start taking a bit of strain, because you are looking at a flickering screen for a long period of time. So the guys can easily lose focus or get a little bit of tunnel vision, and that can either lose up. You can either fall off a circuit from tunnel vision, or you start lifting off or braking a little bit earlier, and that loses some serious time. So it's another aspect guys have to be aware of. And we've seen a lot of our solo drivers in previous endurance races suffer from this quite a bit compared to a multi-team, multi-driver team. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to impact. 10 hours of racing at Silverstone is no joke. Guys have been practicing this race since beginning of January. They've been going and practicing every single day to try and get those setups perfect, and also to try and get more into a rhythm. So I'm not really sure if it's going to be beneficial to go for overtakes and push as hard as you can, same as what we're seeing with Leslie Wilson and Spencer. If it's going to be more beneficial just to tap off a little bit and try and make your way around, but very close side-by-side action. You can see Leslie really just pushing the envelope here. He wants to get past Spencer and try and keep going. But Spencer is holding a very, very defensive line and making sure that Leslie's going to work for it. Nice to see SA drivers taking on international drivers and seeing the skills so high.
Stephen, I have to just tell you, you're butchering Sherman Tinsky's name like a million times. So together we're going to learn it. It's Sherman Tinsky.
No, it's Metinsky.
Metinsky.
That's it.
Metinsky.
Stephen, you go Shimiski and Shimiski.
You literally just bail out halfway. You're just like, you know what? I'm not even going to attempt it, and we cannot dishonor our international guest like this.
No, let's do it right.
Apology.
I have some bad news for one of you gentlemen here. Unfortunately, Bruno Kidile losing out his position. Ross Barton, it looks like I'm not sure if it was just a bit of a mistake, but Bruno definitely falling up one behind him now, so hopefully there's no problems for that car. I'm really hoping it's just a bit of tyres they need to get in these last few minutes.
I wouldn't say this now. As we see Leslie up alongside of Shermatinsky, but I don't think there's any damage from that contact earlier. It was too soft. I just think the McLaren is not looking after its tyres well, or they've got the pressures wrong. And Bruno Cadilli is just struggling with the pressures on the car.
Shout out to our chat as well here that are asking us questions just about tyre models and things. Unlimited tyre model sets, yes, are available in Zero. Asking that up here. Grindeling here as well. RCI TV giving us some support. Husky Bean here as well. Throwing down Snow Villain. I know that's Steve Snow here. Amp also celebrating and supporting his team, driving out to Mark Ansel, Jason Krobler, a whole bunch of familiar names that we've seen before, and a whole bunch of obviously new viewers who are joining us here for the first time. So if you are new here, don't be shy. You are free to subscribe here to the Raceface channel. We do broadcast as many of the races as we can. The new GT3 League kicking off in February. That's going to be massive on a Thursday. So plenty of racing. If you guys have an addiction to watching sim racing, we'll be broadcasting all the action over on this channel. Big shout out to Resource Complete, PWSR, Black Ribbon Simulations, and of course Racing Club International for partnering up with Raceface Speed Labs and helping us take things international, and it's all good to grow the community together. My name is George Smith, also known as G-Max. I love sim racing and commentary. I also am the team principal from White Rabbit Gaming, joined in the box by the head man from PWSR himself, Mr. Alan Patterson, of course, the front man of Black Ribbon Simulations.
No.
That would be Richard Herring.
Oh, right, yes.
We've then got Stephen Koenig joining us as well. He's the front man of just Stephen Koenig as a commentator. He does real life commentary. He's also just a big asset in the sim racing community. So big thanks over there. Alan, thanks for ruining my plugs for you and Richard together. I mean, I know that we're competitors, but I have a notepad here of notes that says, don't confuse the two simulation companies with each other.
No problem. Listen, more importantly, Bruno Cadilli is in the pits. So here we go. We've got the cars coming in now. Bruno's in, Harding's in from 9th place in the Mercedes, as is Minnar and De Wet from 13th, 14th. And our poor soul man G. Richardson in his Lambos also picked up a 15-second time penalty. But yeah, in the last, as I said, close to the first hour, we due for pit stops, and the McLaren was the first to blink and it's gone in.
There we go.
That's one thing to see. Now, go and refresh the tyres and refuel. You might be able to make up a few positions going through it. But you can see the Bentleys are still on a hard charge at this point. Daniel Rowe is making short work of the grid, 6.7 seconds ahead of second place, and he's willing to try and keep that going. So very, very nice to see how they move forward. And if they keep opening up this massive gap, they're going to get into the pits, get out of the pits without having too much loss of time. So that's actually really, really good to see. And on-time effect.
They're coming up to traffic, having just come out the pits, who kindly moves out the way as they go through Maggots and Beckett's.
You've got to be real considerate to jump out the way through that second. You do. Oh, that part of your lap one time. And look, if it's not going to hurt you, go for it. You know, get out the leader's way. They're probably going to appreciate it more than anything else. Yes, you can make your lap one time, and that's it.
Can we just appreciate the defensive drive that has come out from Shermatinsky here? I mean, he's had Leslie all over the back, and we just know what an aggressively pressured drive that would be, because Leslie is an incredibly talented driver and has that ability to really try and force the error out. So the fact that even Shermatinsky is just holding off and defending so well against that PWSR car, that's a difficult feat. It is creating massive benefits for Daniel Rowe and the GeForce Retro team. 7.5 seconds up the road of these two scrapping it out. So if they're not too careful, they're going to let their Bentley brother just continue to escape them, and that's going to leave a lot of work for them to make up. 7.5 seconds is a gap that you do want to have coming into the first stint of pit stops.
Yeah, that's a handy buffer to have. You're right, George. But I think what Leslie's also doing is he's pressurizing Shermatinsky, and this has caused him. I know I'm kind of sounding like a scratched record here, but he has run off track a few times in this first hour, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them getting a drive through. He's going to have to drive a little bit cleaner, and by doing that, he is slowing himself down, and he's allowing Leslie to get right up the back of that Bentley, and these guys they're driving away from the rest of the field. Actually, Bego Krobler's had a nice clean run through the grid. He's up now into 4th place, but not too far off the back, 2.5 seconds behind these guys. So I'd say we're going to see pit stops in the next 10 minutes, and then we're going to see position changes.
I feel like for Leslie right now, this is the time he should be going into the pits. Like this time that he's losing out to Shermatinsky, he's faster. There's no doubt in my mind. He's just not able to make any of the moves in the positions of the racetrack that he is finding those tense. So for me, that PWSR car needs to go into the pits and get himself out and try and undercut Shermatinsky as quick as possible, because the time that he's losing out here is going to be absolutely what you're going to be looking at towards the end, and it's the same place over and over. Out the end of the hanger straight into Stowe, he's all over the back end, but Shermatinsky does such a good job out through the Vale chicane to just make himself wide and not available for attack, and that's causing Leslie to not be able to carry that into the third sector.
He's definitely looking.
He's looking, but this, I mean, he's putting himself in so much risk following in that dirty air as well. It's a hard part of the circuit to be following in, and you want as much downforce as you want down into Village. Shermatinsky putting himself early into the corner, making sure that he gets the best exit out through the loop, and then again,
always close. Yeah,
there's going to be the slip down now. This could be a down at the back end of the Wellington straight. They go. It was a great exit out through Aintree for Olifan. On the inside he goes. Is he going to have a look through? Yeah, I don't think he's quite got it, but they both do go quite deep coming through. Shermatinsky particularly deep. but manages to keep that car, look at it, perfectly on the inside line once again. But the undercut from Leslie Oliphant, the overlap almost getting in there. Are they side by side through here? I think they are. Leslie Oliphant for PWSR trying to go alongside that Kripax car. This could be the Bentley battle we wanted to see. They will go side by side into turn one, the inside line for the PWSR 101, and it will be done. Beautiful work coming out from Leslie, and a good call from him to stay out. He does get the move done, doesn't need to get it done under the pit stop, and the pressure will still be on from Sherbatinski, but a beautiful bit of driving coming out from Leslie Oliphant.
I'll tell you what. I'm sitting here and I'm pushing my right foot on the floorboards here as hard as I can.
I don't know about from you guys, from my side, just seeing a car the size of the Bentley do battle, two of them do battle like that, it just makes my heart
awesome.
so happy. Makes it so happy.
Okay, I'm going to chuck in something here. Ferber down in 16th place has got a stop-go penalty of 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And that is a massive impact, and the only way you can actually get that one right is you go and speed through the pits. And that means you didn't have your pit limiter on, or you changed to second gear, and just that little bit more pace put you further down. So Ferber and his team are not going to be too happy with that. Oliphant trying to battle his way through the back markers at this point.
Yeah, they're in a bunch of traffic.
Trying to just utilize them. Oliphant's trying to use the back markers to separate himself from third place. And this is where it gets a little bit difficult. Working your way through the back markers, you don't want to mess up their end, but at the same time, you don't want to lose up yours. And take a look, one of the McLarens now wanting to play, looking to dive up on the inside, and trying to do his way through. So very, very interesting. And that's, I think, is that? No, it's not Clue.
It's not Lionel. But this has allowed Leslie to get a good gap here. If you look how far back Shermatinsky is, he's 3 cars behind. He didn't get through the traffic at all.
This is going to be a very, very interesting battle. I think, and I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, the battle between the PWSR team and Shermatinsky's team, I think this is going to be the major battle right until the end of the race. I think the two teams are trying to eye themselves out now, trying to figure out when are they going to pit and try and either go a lap ahead or undercut them, and they're just trying to suss each other out. This is, I'm putting my foot in my mouth here, but
you're not putting your foot in your mouth, Stephen. Like they're battling it out now. They could be battling it out forever. I mean, I think it's a good call. I think I would love to see Gripax and PWSR go for it, but will they be able to take it up towards that P1 position from GeForce Retro? I think second and third is always a nice place to get, but will they be able to chase down onto P1? That's the question. 8.2 seconds the gap now between Rowe and Oliphant. But Oliphant, he's almost been set free, hasn't he? He's got the hardest part behind him. Shervatinsky was making life incredibly difficult. What can he do now with just Daniel Rowe in his sights?
While taking a look at our YouTube comments, Bernard King saying KSR Pulse is unfortunately disconnected as well. So we've lost KSR Pulse. That is absolutely frightening. And we've also got from Steve Snow, he's got his little one going and watching the stream. So hello Ashley.
Hello Ashley.
Hello Ashley.
Hello Ashley.
Good stuff, Stevie.
It's always good to get your kids involved in sim racing at an early stage. I remember my parents tried to encourage me as much as possible to stay away from computers as a youngster, and I rebelled. And now I'm a grown-up that plays a lot of fake racing things and mostly just commentate from them. So to be honest, if you encourage it from an early start, I think you've got a good set for the future. Because if you don't, they're just going to rebel like me, and they're just going to do it anyway. So to be honest, it's fantastic to have one here. Yes, Tom.
Sorry, my man. Bago, George, Bago Kroblo's all over the back of Shermatinsky. This is now for third and fourth. So he's actually, Shermatinsky didn't get through that traffic at all well, and it's allowed Bago right up to the back of him. And this is now his new challenge to defend against. So Bentley's 1, 2, 3, and 4 right now.
No, it's a stack. It's a Bentley Cup at the front, and also great to see Gregor having a good race here. I mean,
yes,
for them, it's something that they've been deserving to have for a long time. They always participate and have good results. But sitting here in the top 5 and comfortably in 4th place, Bartel 9.9 seconds down the road. Shebetitsky very wide. This is Gregor Krobler's chance on the inside. The dance revolution begins, and into Village. Will he be able to do it? Shemetinsky defending the inside line, but the undercut. Will Gregor Krobler set himself up for the loop? He's quite wide through here. Shemetinsky, I think, survives that and gets away with it. Gregor Krobler will be looking back and thinking, that was maybe the opportunity that I had. He had to lift slightly through that left-hander.
He's got a good drive, yeah. He's got a good drive coming.
Still can get the inside line. I think Shemetinsky is the master of this complex of corners. He had to defend against Leslie so hard through here. And this time does manage to survive once again. That 5-1-5 of Gregor Krobler, though, looking very, very intimidating indeed, and getting himself... You know, he's going to take the advice we gave to Leslie earlier on, and that was if you're catching up and you can't get past in a couple of laps, then just rather go into the pits. He does go in, and that will be a giant change. I see that my White Rabbit Gaming team has also made their driver change. Jason Absmeyer at the wheel of the 666. They've got a lot of hard work here, I must be honest, to get back up through the order. And it's a bit of an unfortunate start because they had a great quali, and unfortunately things kind of fell off for them. So an update from that side of things. Jason at the wheel, Arne Vasaki still to go into the car, and Bruno will be back in again. But if anyone needs to be in this phase of the race, needing to make their way through traffic and keep calm, Jason Absmeyer definitely the driver to have there. And give me the chance also, before I go to you, Richard, just to thank Alan. I mean, the other day we were watching the Sim Race South Africa stream. Jason was having a great race, and from both my side, Jason's side, and our White Rabbit Gaming team, it was really nice to hear the things that you had to say about us on your broadcast, Alan. So thank you.
You're welcome, and yeah, look, it's great to have Jason back online. I've been chatting to him a few times in private, and he's asked a couple of questions here and there. And look, the man's definitely a talented driver. He's no doubt got skills, and he's quick. So it's great to have him back. Whatever's happened previously before my time is past, and he certainly showed everybody. Exactly, he's shown everybody how to drive these GT3 cars, and he's ruffled some feathers against the usual bunch that are now having to go, well, hang on, there's a couple of new guys here, we've got to pick up our A game.
I think that's what 2020 was for a lot of people, actually, the explosion of sim racing in South Africa, was the established front-runner orders. Suddenly got a big surprise when all these incredibly fast people showed up, and guys thinking, I'll give my hand at this, and they haven't actually. So what the benefit us here in South Africa is the explosion of the talent pool. Even though some of the big teams aren't necessarily picking up these drivers, they're forming their own little, teams. So we may see a team here, like names I don't really recognize are sitting up here in the top 10. So that's really the great thing about what's happening here at Race Faces. It's just that amalgamation of all these people who have come in from Formula One and this, and now we're all doing some GT3 endurance racing. It's just creating for honestly one of the spectacular shows you can get, personally.
An interesting fact I can tell you guys now is they go into lap 36. Jason Absmeyer's last lap was a 1:59.3. Leslie Oliphant's last lap in race pace a 1:59.4, and Daniel Rowe a 2.0. So Leslie's chasing hard to close the gap down to Daniel Rowe, but Jason's come out of that pit stop and he's pushing hard.
Well, that's what my point was going to be to G, was saying, well, he's in the car, but if you've been watching his laps for the last couple, he's had it dialed to 11, and he's pushing, which is fantastic. He's got some time to make up, but 8 hours and 46 minutes left. I think they're in a good position.
And now we've got Ross Bartel and Ryan Ottens pitting. Ross has just come out the pit, so that pit stop done from 5th. And we'll just wait for our timing screens to catch up. Also interesting to see Morgan McCall still in the car after their early pit stop and back up to 10th. So they will be moving further up and well into the top 10, which is where they normally should be. And yeah.
Well, I've got to point out with the explosion of sim racing. It used to be guys using like the G27 or G29. Now we're seeing a lot more growth into the Fanatics and into the Thrustmasters as guys are trying to get a bit more feeling, a bit of a nudging and bumping for Lockenberg. So he's not having a great time there, trying to keep that McLaren in check and not get pushed offline too quickly. But going back to it, guys have been upgrading their gear to make sure they can try and get a little bit more feeling into their cars. I was taking a look at the TGN guys, and they having quite a bit of fun with their racing and modified their.
Stephen, are you sponsored by TGN in our stream here as well?
No, I've just
have you not shared your TGN partnership with us? But I mean, it's nice to have Werner Jobert, of course, the head of TGN Racing with us. He's always been a good mate of mine in that sim racing community. I've been through to his place a couple of times to try out those racing things. But I mean, I'm friends with everybody in the simulation side of things, and a lot of my friends have simulation companies. So it's nice to see that buzz, and like you said, a lot more focus coming down into specialized gear, etc. I got myself a nice sequential shifter. I'm a big drift and rally fanboy, so I got myself a nice custom one made up, and yeah, it goes a long way. It's fun to add parts to your rig, add through to it, and it's a lot cheaper than running a real race car, but sometimes it feels like it's not that much cheaper. Like you go, okay, it's cheaper, but you look at the price of some of your gear at the end of the day and you go, okay, we've definitely built up a nice little assortment of gear for every different situation. But for Lockenberg here in this number 27, he's all over the back of Gregor, but he's not looking comfortable. This McLaren has done more lawn mowing in the last couple of laps than I've done in my own garden during December, so it feels like that BWR Vipers McLaren certainly pushing maybe a little bit too hard in trying to get past Gregor, but definitely closing down around the outside of Stowe. He's going to send it. He's going to be late on the brakes, but I think that was beautiful. Absolutely. Eugene van Lockenberg with an overtake that has made the goosebumps just arise, and fantastic stuff into Vale, gets the work done, gives himself a couple of car lengths breathing space as well. What a send coming down.
That was a born to send right there. That was incredible.
That was impressive. One of the discussions in the other league has been about equipment as well, and an interesting way that it was put was rims and steering bases offer an immersion component to sim racing. If you're looking for performance improvement, it's going to be dealt with load cell braking systems and that type of equipment.
Or just practice. Like some of the fastest guys that I know just go and rock times with G27s and old school gear that you would never believe. So you know, sometimes it's not just the hardware. I think the consistency side of a load cell adds a lot into the arrangement, but I mean, the talent side, if you can get yourself just a set of wheels and pedals and you can start giving it a go, you'll be able to see whether this is something you're good at and you have a knack for almost immediately, and it's worth upgrading through. You don't have to go and spend hundreds of thousands of rands on kits to get set up with it. I think that's what I always want to encourage, is people to go, well, you know, the barrier to entry is always seen as high, but you know, you can get away with an entry-level set of wheel and pedals, and it will show you whether you've got the talent or not. And some of my best mates that have gone through the ebb and flow of sim racing, going through sponsored teams, having to sell gear when, you know, things are tough, having to go back to all kinds of things, like they still manage to perform on things that are, you know, what you would think is entry-level gear. McCall and Gregor now also going to be having a little dice. Looks like McCall on the outside. Gregor going to lose another position there as McCall slots himself into 7th.
I've been watching Daniel Rowe quietly for the last few laps. That gap back to Leslie Oliphant's gone from 8.9 down to 7.1 seconds. So Leslie is closing the gap on Daniel Rowe, and the gap from Leslie back to Shermatinsky is now at 10.5 seconds. That's how much he was holding Leslie up in the earlier part of his race. So, and the gap now down to 6.8 seconds. So Leslie's definitely driving the wheels off the PWSR Bentley to close the gap down to Rowe. And as I said, they probably do into the pits in the next 5 minutes here.
Have you guys spotted the Eleanor Lightning car up in 5th? It's a sneaky little maneuver for them to get out. Is that due to pit stops? Have they not hit yet?
Ryan Barrington Smith, they haven't come into the pits yet. Jason is the first of everybody in that bunch.
Ryan Barrington Smith has been into the pits, Alan. Definitely.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He has definitely been in.
Okay.
Oh, or that Eleanor car has been in, because the previous driver, let's just see their driver lineup. Stratum and Van der Vault. I'm pretty sure that they have come in.
I'm pretty sure Stratum started their race because Barry
They have come in.
Barry says he's known in the console community is. I'm going to go ahead and say he's definitely one to watch in 2021. He's just moved over to the PC. I mean, this, George, do you remember my lockdown laps corner? This is the gentleman.
Okay.
So
Chaba's losing out hardcore in this Bentley. Just to touch on that as well. I mean, ProCamp now looking to be the next beneficiary here in that 21 Grumpy Monkey Classic. He's gonna get himself lined up to pass Chaba pretty much in the next couple of laps, and that 515 Bentley certainly losing out from probably the last 6 or so laps that we've been watching them.
Interesting to see how he's going to deal with it at this point, because the frustration must be kicking in when you go backwards down the grid. The frustration starts to kick in, and it's all about trying to keep a cool head in the process. That's another aspect to think about. If we go back to Keely, who unfortunately got spun round, he had to try and get back on the rhythm, because getting knocked off your rhythm and try finding it again, especially in a race that can get quite frustrating, is not an easy task to do. You have to try and take a deep breath, go, okay, it's happened, focus on moving forward. Otherwise, you're going to make more and more mistakes. But ProCamp is really putting the pressure on the back of his Bentley, literally hunting left and right, trying to find which way he's going to go. So I wonder what on earth is going to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of switch up that's going to come. I think now is when we can start to have a look at the drive of the team. Or I think not so much fatigue. We're not that far into the race for it to be class fatigue. A little bit of brain fade. You set into the rhythm of the same thing, and then you're caught up in a battle with someone and fall asleep. Just that's it. And I don't mean obviously physically fall asleep, but at this stage of the race, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of not so much brain fade, more than anything else.
Yeah. Squirrel moments that come out.
Yes, those squirrel moments, perfectly put. It's just those moments when you think, oh God, I need to focus.
1 minute you're driving, next minute you're thinking about grabbing chow, and then you realize that you're a little bit closer to the other car.
Or you've missed your brake marker by like a good 10 meters or something like that.
No, that's when you're driving to go get the chow.
So ProCamp does get past Chaba, of course, and will manage to now make his way on towards chasing Morgan McCall. But interesting, that 515 then definitely struggling a little bit.
The leaders are in the pits.
Shermatinsky also going into the pits, yeah. So Rowe going in, driver swap coming down. Is JC Hrobler going to take to the wheel? They've got a massive driver lineup here. Brian Lewis, JC Hrobler, who was their fourth. Johannes Kreiling also the driver to keep an eye out for. So the PWSR car will take over the lead of the race. First time that they will find themselves up towards the front of the order here. And we'll be going in to, of course, serve their pit stop. But regardless, we'll take over that as Rowe and Shermatinsky put their cars into the pits. Jason Absmeyer making his way through the field as well. That 666 now in 4th place here for White Rabbit Gaming. And pit stops and everything still to come through and shuffle up. So keep yourselves in your seats. Make sure that you've got a notepad out, because positions change all the time, and in this kind of racing, anything can happen. So for now, Leslie just going to be keeping himself out of trouble. We see him getting himself out through the very many back markers that Silverstone has presented us with, because we do not have 2 different splits. So there are skill levels from very professional drivers down to some very skilled entry level drivers as well who have done sim racing before. It's not like this is their first race coming down. They've had to seed and do all of those things, but just one big split for everybody to watch, and we couldn't be happier to have all these drivers participating. And you just see 37 cars on the grid, and you think 37 drivers, but no, each car has up to 4 drivers inside. Leslie going to go into the pits as well, so it is going to be interesting. Looks like Daniel not changing up his drivers there.
No, yeah, he hasn't changed. He's double stinting. Hendrickson is in the car from Shimotinsky, but Daniel Rose stayed in the car, so he's doing a double stint.
This is going to be interesting. I wonder if they're keeping Daniel right in because his pace, or they're trying to keep, because he knows the rhythm of it to try and keep him going. So I wonder what's the thought process to that, where guys are going to be going and changing the drivers, changing up the strategies as it goes. And it's going to be interesting as the time goes on of what the plans are going to be. And let's be honest, endurance racing is you have a plan when you start practicing, you then change the plan when you do the second bit of practicing. You change the plan for the qualifying, then you change the plan for the race as it goes. Your plan constantly evolves depending on the situation, so you can't just go in of, okay, it's hour 8, we're going to change to this driver. You might feel that driver is not on the same pace, or you're not in the right position, you're going to try and stretch it out earlier. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting thing to see of who's got the plans that are able to change on the fly, or how many people are going to keep to a rigid plan. So coming from that perspective, what do you guys think?
I think they're changing drivers, or they're setting driver stints based on the driver's performance. Daniel Rose being the quickest, or they're all going to do 2-hour stints for the first 8 hours and then share the last 2 hours amongst the 4 of them. Every team's going to have their own theories. We can surmise what we want here in the booth. Without talking to any of the teams, we won't know what their ideas are. Maybe a driver's sick and all of a sudden the other 4 guys need to step up and they've got to change a 4 to a 3 system. It's nice to discuss and talk about. We'll see it happen as we watch them do their pit stops through the course of the evening.
Absolutely. It's that age-old saying, the plan goes out as soon as the first bullet's fired in combat. I feel like it's a little bit the same thing here. The race starts and you get 2 laps in, and even a little bit of damage you pick up, that throws everything if you have to pit to fix that damage. Do you put another driver in? Is that driver now too angry to continue? That's the reality. When you get punted, genuinely lose your cool and actually have to spend a bit of time bringing yourself back towards yourself. So, yeah, as you said, we can surmise and speculate all day long here, but maybe one of their team members can drop through to the interview box and come give us some narrative, maybe we'll able to share, but otherwise, yeah, we're playing a guessing game.
We are. What you can see here is Jason Abbs doing a double stint, so he's now all over the back of our number 2 driver, Chris Heineke, who's in the car right now. So Leslie's got out, Chris has got in, and they took their 10-second penalty, so that's been cleared now, and we're in a net second position. But the race is on right here, as you can see on the screen. Jason's been in the car for a good 20 minutes already and is well settled, tires are settled. So I think what's going to be interesting is let's see what the McLaren does in the next 30 to 40 minutes, which is when it kind of hit a cliff wall on the first stint. And did they maybe have their pressures wrong on this McLaren, or are the tires going off on the car quicker than they do on the Bentley?
I mean, watching the track temperatures, we haven't had any major changes. I think we've had a 1 degree increase in track temperature in the last hour.
Okay.
So it could very well have come down to tire pressures maybe reset for that standard ambient pressure or temperature, and it just wasn't right. That can really throw you off the stuff. So hopefully down to the tire pressures.
It can also come down to management. I mean, the pressure to try and keep that car up at the front of the order, with the likes of Shematinsky and of course Daniel Rowe putting pressure on as well in the early phase of that race. Could have just pushed the car a little bit too hard in the early phases. McLaren has always been an incredibly quick quali car here. I mean, when it came out originally for the McLaren Shadow project, it was launched for Silverstone for their project. It had a strong BOP, and coming in here, it's always been a good, strong contender. That doesn't always translate over to a race stint, and that might be the falling point of the car. So, you know, all of those things are things that you learn, and in a team and in that team principal position, it's things that you make a note of. You know, where does it really shine? Is it a car that works well in those 1 hour 20-minute races? Does it fall off when you have to start pushing it longer? But a lot of pressure definitely coming out from Jason here. So he's doing the same thing as Bruno in terms of definitely winding the car up into a higher terminal volume. He wants to make sure that he keeps the pressure onto the back of PWSR. And like you mentioned and spotted out, Chris getting into the car early on, he's got a lot to adapt to. He's just starting to learn the rhythm, and that pressure and that point is where Jason knows that he needs to pounce, because if he lets Chris get settled, it's going to be a much harder thing later on, rather than getting the work done early on. So I think that's where Jason's trying to just keep that pressure on now. He knows he's got a fresh mind. He's going to maybe try and have a look on the inside of Stowe, going to keep the inside apex there, and definitely finds a couple of tents. Heineke has a mirror full of Adsmeyer as they come down into Vale. The 101 comes across the track nicely and defends off that position, so it gives himself some breathing room, but certainly the charge on from the 666. White Rabbit Gaming looking to try and get themselves up towards the front of the order once again. Daniel Rowe, the man of the moment, he's double stinted this, and he's just been pushing and pushing. I mean, his last lap, a 159.3, he's finding the pace. He's a 158.9 his best lap. He's certainly showing that consistency is very much king in these situations. Leave the other drivers to fight out with themselves and race your own race. So very good race coming out from them. But do certainly want to see what happens in this the shuffle up for second and third place.
I don't think we're done. I think we're going to see a lot more knife fighting. You know, I'm obviously not going to be able to stand for the entirety of it, but absolutely going to tune in. And I have no doubt we're going to see a knife fight for this top 5 spot. Not even top 3, top 5 is going to be at each other for the whole race, whether it's pit stops or actual, you know, duking it out on the track. I envision some excitement for the next 8 hours, 28 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of racing still to happen. Yeah, we've just gone through an hour and a half of the 10-hour event. The Speed Labs 10-hour race, sponsored by Arsenal, Resource Complete, Black Ribbon Simulations, and PWSR coming into the next one. Lots of racing still to happen here, and Rowe up the road and double stinting, so he's been in the car for the first 1.5 hours. Heineke pit stop, and Jason also been in the car for an hour and a half. So at the moment, the usual suspects are right up there, but I think Heineke's doing really well to keep Jason Absmeyer at bay. Hendrickson up into 4th place, or sorry, that's not up to, but that's he's the teammate from what's his name, Shermatinsky. So yeah, Jason's basically got back
Gripback's car.
That's it. And then Morgan McCall still busy with his drive up the grid in 7th place, so also doing well there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a good point, as I can kind of run through the whole grid here. We're coming down, we've got 8 hours and 27 minutes left of racing, kind of see where everybody sits, get a good feel for all the entries that are here. I know a lot of the drivers down towards the bottom end of the order always feel like they don't get the stream time, and that's not what we're about here. We want everybody to feel like they're part of the race, because without them the race wouldn't be as big. So 38 cars or 37 cars on the grid. In 4th place, the Gripax Engineering number 81 Bentley. Ryan Barrington Smith, also known as Barry's, piloting that 149 Aston Martin for the LNR team. This is the LNR Lightning entry, Logistical Nightmare Racing. Over on the console side, I'll give them a little plug as well. If you guys are looking for some console racing, go check out Logistical Nightmare on their Discord. Very, very big community and a great place to be. I quite enjoy the interactions between the console guys, so good to have them joining us on the PC side of sim racing as well. BWR Vipers currently in 5th place, that number 27 McLaren 720S, Eugene van Locherenberg. he is the man that currently sits behind the wheel, and BWR has just had a monumental impact on the whole of the race face entry side. They've come over and entered in massive teams during the last season that we had, and good to have them coming over and showing the support. The Get Speed number 44, I think also known as the ATKX EKZ entry, Morgan McCall, Junior McCall and Jaden Gambon, they are the men behind this, and currently sitting in 7th. So they've had a good race, starting all the way down, and I think it was 14th place. So big work for them to make their way through the order. And you can see in the background of that there's Brent Crowcamp. He's been making some moves as well. That's the Grumpy Monkey number 21 McLaren, and behind them would be the Black Ribbon Simulations EKZ 555 entry. That would be piloted by Zillan Harding. Corne Strauss also going to be taken to the wheel. I'm not quite sure if they have another entry as well.
Tristan Nobrega is out there.
Okay, so Tristan de Nobrega into the car as well. So Kinetic Simworks Racing, also known as KSR, they've got a number 484 entry. Arno van Mansberg, a very impactful man in the scene, especially for us here at the race face, because he is the head of Resource Complete, so of course have sponsored up with our previous seasons, as well as getting involved when we ever need to do something. So big shout out to Arno, and good to always have the participants of the sponsored events also either driving or being here in the comms box. Of course, Alan from PWSR and Richard from Black Ribbon Simulations joining me today. Noah Hendricks in that amateur play entry, the number 78 720S, sits in 11th place, so doing very well for them as well. The number 23 of Christian Deploy, I'm not quite sure what their team name is here, but Christian Deploy, of course, with the likes of Fenter in their 720S. They're just rocking that default McLaren 720S Shadow Project livery. I did like it when it came out, and still always a fan of it. Martin Rotenbacht is in the 989 KSR Force entry, and I think, correct me, but a lone NSX on the grid. So good to see them within the top 20, currently sitting in 13th place. Paul Gaber is the man behind the 515, and I believe that is the entry that has Vega Krobler and Myberg. So that would be the Team Tryhard Resource Complete entry as well. So good to see them having a good race. Currently Jeff Carr for the Flying Gypsies. We saw them earlier doing a little bit of lawn mowing, but currently planted on the asphalt and losing out some positions to, I think that's the number 81. That's William Hendrickson. So actually Jeff Carr getting involved with a couple of the front runners there, the number 99 for Flying Gypsies. They didn't want that as we went through the order. Jan van Rensburg, partner to Matt and some Syndicates entry, number 42 Aston Martin, currently sitting in 16th place. They are also making their way through the field after a very, very difficult start. Mr. Altman Buerta in the 242. That's the new Racing OS team. They sit in 17th place. Anthony Wilson, he pilots the other LNR entry. That would be the Wind Chatham T, the 333 Aston Martin, sitting in 18th place. In 19th place, the BWR Slots entry, the 111 with Leon LaRue behind the wheel. So Gaber rounds out the top 10 in the Resource Complete Team Try Hard Racing 696 Bentley. Justin Lotus for the Kaike Racing Works team in that 807. He sits just outside the top 20 and 21st place. Barry Mayer for the BWR Griffins, they sit in 22nd place. The number 76, very bright livery, purple green, a bit of a Joker theme going down there. As we look down to Brent Forbes for the new Racing BG team, currently sitting in 23rd place. Jean-Andre Brits for CNM Racing. They do a lot of racing as well. We can plug their Discord for sure. Monday Night Racing, CNM Racing, all the places that you can get some casual racing at your disposal. The two for McLaren, sitting in 24th place. Gary Richardson, a lone runner, this now entering into this event to take to it by himself. 10 hours solo behind the wheel of his Lamborghini, and the Barwell Motorsport number 57 finding himself in 25th place. The Wentworth brothers, Robert and William, in that 999 Lexus, they started all the way down towards the back of the grid as far as I can remember, and they made their way up into 26th place. A good showing from the two Lexus brothers as they make their way around the circle. With 8 hours and 21 minutes to go, Derek Peters in the Optimum Motorsport number 10. He's looking to chase down onto the Wentworth brothers, and he's got the likes of Harold Pretorius in 28th place for the Emma Group 59 Racing McLaren, putting some pressure on. So that's of course just the standard livery. Not quite sure of what Harold Pretorius' team name is here, but the number 28 with his co-drivers trying to stamp their mark down here. So Janssen van Renberg and LaRue, his co-partners in this 10-hour. Gareth Hawkins, who finds himself in the number 69, my favorite internet racing number, after 421, which is of course my actual race number. But internet numbers, number 69, currently in 29th place. Gareth Hawkins representing his team, the Hawks, in 29th place. Chantal Hansen finds herself in 30th place, rounding out the top 30 in that number 136 Lexus. So another Lexus on the grid, and looking to just defend off from the likes of Marcel De Beer and the Flying Gypsies number 3 entry. So plenty of Flying Gypsies entries. The double 3 Aston Martin finds themselves in 31st. 32nd is the Moonbeam 420 car. So, I said 421, 420. Couldn't get more internet numbers in a race stream if you tried. But Thorn Mihos in 32nd place. 33rd for the other LNR Fanatic entry. They currently find themselves kind of just down towards the bottom of the order in a lot of open air, but it's a long race still, and from this place you're trying to capitalize on other people having bad races. Vanna Jabé, we talked about TGN Racing Simulators, and here's the plug they get again. The number 11 currently sitting in 34th place. We saw them having incidents with cars early on, and I think that's pretty much the biggest contributing reason, as he goes big slideways with the commentator's curse for us. Rounding out the current cars on the grid, we only got 35. 37 started, so 2 have dropped away. Will be the last KSR Pulse car, and that's Chris DeVette in the number 97, trying to make his way up through the order. With that, we'll conclude our run through of the full grid, and we'll switch back over to some of the interesting things up at the front as Ryan Barrington-Smith closes down on the likes of Eugene van Lochenberg and a heap of GT3 cars in the shot now.
Just as we saw, almost 2 hours in, I fight these guys, it's a sprint race, and I fight each other. Because I think that's also a factor. And I don't know if you guys watched the entirety of the virtual one that we had last year during the height of the global lockdowns and stuff. And it was actually something that they touched on that I love seeing in these races that they do, is where guys aren't holding back because of certain technical things that they have to worry about in the car. In sim racing, you don't have certain failures. So we're ending up with these record numbers of laps being completed because the guys are just always down to 11, always going. It's so exciting to watch these guys sprint like this. And 8 hours left to go. They're still going to be on it because there's a fresh bunch of guys waiting in the pits.
We'll take a look at Absmeyer. He's moved up 2 positions. So the White Rabbit Gaming McLaren is moving up and looking to keep on going. Hendrickson is hard on the charge behind him, trying to look for any way to get by, and looks left and right, trying to figure out which way is going to be more beneficial and how to put enough pressure to make sure that White Rabbit Gaming machine goes off the racing line. So hard work from Absmeyer. Glad to see him in the car, but he's got to now try and keep Hendrickson at bay, and that's where the difficulty comes in. It's a lot easier to try and push a guy to make a mistake than try and hold the guy back and not make a mistake.
100%. Jason, being the consummate professional he is behind the wheel, he's going to find himself a lot of pressure, but he's just watching from this view. He's making that McLaren so big. that McLaren is taking up so much track, and legitimately so. We've always talked about wheel-winning guys taking chances in the straights and and defending and the braking and stuff like that. But he's just doing really well to keep this McLaren as big as possible.
I've just been going through a couple of other interesting things, and just to raise this with anybody watching the stream or any new people watching and considering, is this an adults only thing? Are there children allowed, etc.? Let me tell you, currently we have in this field 2 youngsters that I know of under the age of 15 years old. One of them being Jude Stewart in a car number 33, and they are currently that's Flying Gypsies team number 3. I can't see what position they're in now, but
33, hey, do we have a 33, they're in 31st.
31st, that's it. So Marcel de Beer driving the car at the moment, but they're up there. That team consists of a few drivers, one of them being the young Jude Stewart, who's a very quick go-kart racer from down here in Cape Town. And the other one obviously being Junior McCall, part of the McCall family in the ATK Academy car. And they are in 11th at the moment with their third driver, Jaden Gambon, currently in the car. So besides this being the majority of the field being adults, we do have some youngsters kind of holding their own and doing very well. Junior is a renowned fast driver, as everybody knows, and certainly keeps the McCall name flying high every time he gets in the car. And then further to that, from another point of view, we have Chantal Hansen, who is also racing, and I think she's the only lady driver that's currently in the field today. So it's a great mix and a great turnout from everybody involved, and it just goes to show, this is not it doesn't belong only in the adult men territory. We've got youngsters here, and we've got ladies driving, and everyone's having a great time.
Oh, 100%. I think this is one of what's happening?
No just gets let by there by Van Mansberg. Van Mansberg just deciding that this is not a driver that I want to take a fight with 8 hours left into the race. So I think that's a good move, actually, to just make a safe decision to rather not defend against someone that's going to make you lose more time to people behind you. And so Arno van Mansberg just gives that position over to Noah, but it does promote the to play McLaren up into the top 10 and sits himself in 9th place now. So good to see Noah getting into some good rhythm here, and certainly been a driver that I've become very familiar with all the way back from my Project Cars 2 days, when I used to just make car sounds on the streams and had no idea what was going on. But big shout out to everyone that endured those times and stuck with us, because it's so good to still be able to bring commentary action and to have such a big support and following from everybody who enjoys the sim racing community. So I really love that everybody loves everybody. I know it sounds cliched, and we do have some beef and we do have some drama. It happens in everything, but out of all the esports that I've been involved in, sim racing certainly is the least, for lack of a better word, bitchy esports. It has the least cat and claws coming out, but you know how it works. Your best mates outside of the simulator, but come race time, you're the biggest enemies on track, and you're fighting for prize, you're fighting for everything. So outside of the circuit, I think everybody really is good mates. They have big support for one another. There's no hard feelings between people, and when it comes down to it, you just want to see clean, hard racing all the way down to the line. And our community has grown in leaps and bounds from the early days. It's so good to be able to throw an event and have some drivers sign up in teams and know that you're going to be able to stick it out and have everybody commit for a full 10 hours of racing. It's not an easy thing, and you just got to think about the commitments and the sacrifices that people go through to be able to do this. Friends and family get put on hold, and you take your time on a Saturday to come and race in a simulated racing lobby whilst we get to commentate over it. It honestly is a dream come true for me, and I'm hoping for the rest of 2021 that things continue that way. Like I mentioned at the very start, I'm looking to head over to Europe and continue with this entire dream and adventure. I've been very privileged to be able to do some international events in the past year, and yeah, for me it's I'm looking forward for the season, and I'm looking forward to seeing our South African drivers, the ones that have been dominating up at the front, to extend their legs into the European scene and continue to support those European leagues. I mean, Racing Club International, they've always welcomed South Africans with open arms. We often joke there that we sometimes have a bit of a South African takeover, but yeah, encouraging everybody to get involved in racing. That's what it's all about. And with 8 hours and 10 minutes to go, it feels like time has been flying by. Daniel Rowe still leads us away, 25 seconds ahead of Jason Absmeyer. Jaden Gambon, he's putting some pressure onto, it looks like Arno van Mansberg as well. So trying to get that ATK X EKZ car just a little bit further up. And this will get them into the top 10. Again, they have gone under pit stop, so we're not sure if Van Mansberg is on a different pit stop strategy at this point.
I don't know if he has, but Jaden has managed to take in about a second and a half in this last lap alone. So I'm not sure if that Aston potentially is due for one, or whether Jay has just put his too much sending an absolute sending where he goes. But he is continuing to close the gap down. And he's actually going to get into a spot where he could potentially just make the move. It looks like he's got the pace to just make it happen. Your predictions on rain, actually all of you guys, I read in the stack or the prep if you will, the Discord post, that the chance of rain was there. What do you guys think? Are we going to see it? Is it going to be typical English pitter, or are these guys going to get rain on?
Richard, yeah, I'm going to bite my tongue at this and say nothing. I'm not, I didn't build or set up the service, so I can't tell you what the settings they used on the weather prediction, but
good. We must have no understanding. It must catch us by complete surprise.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
I like
so
it. No one knows. All we know for free is that our weatherman says right now next 30 minutes are clear with a little bit of sun and some clouds. So for now, we can say that for 30 minutes it's going to be clear. But I mean, we've seen how quickly that can change, and then how quickly do you have to respond? How wet does the track get? Is that rain coming down for the next 10 minutes, or is it just going to be a downpour that can let you kind of ease off, take it a bit easier on your dry tires, and not go in for a 30-second tire swap pit stop?
Just for those, yeah. Well, some good news is we've got the Jet Speed 44 car, overtaken von Mansberg. So he's just cracking on. I think we are very much looking for a
I have a request from the chat from Eddie Francis. He's our good friend from Monday Night Racing. If you guys are watching this thinking, I love this league racing, but I'm a bit of an amateur, and I'm not sure that I could do it quite like this. We do have a great community initiative, Monday Night Racing, completely amateur friendly, but we do encourage all styles of racing. We've got a pro server that runs down with some talented drivers as well, and we've got completely new people entering every week. So Eddie in the chat, he's actually asked me to say a sentence in my home language of Afrikaans, which is here's ek weer met my commentaar by jou weer. Yeah, lekker. He said I have to say it twice, but we can't, so we'll just do it once. But that was my Afrikaans for the stream, and we take requests in the chat. If you guys do have questions, feel free to ask us things. Try not give me too many Afrikaans things to say, because I know you guys are dirty or maybe say rude things that I don't understand, and then I'll get in trouble. So don't bait me like that. But if you do have questions, feel free to shoot them at us. We're just going to look at Leon Leroux for the BWR slots, putting that pressure onto Jeff Carr in that Flying Gypsies number 199 Mercedes.
Yeah, back on the weather thing. I'd like to believe that we possibly might see some changing weather later on. I wouldn't say it's clear, although there is sun, but there is a lot of cloud around. So We got to look at the wind as well, and at the moment there's zero wind, so I don't think anything's blowing in. And this was also the comment was also raised by JC Corbler on the YouTube channel. So, but we're only 2 hours in of a 10-hour race. There's the best part of a day to go still, and let's see what happens later on. A little bit of a moisture might throw the cat amongst the pigeons.
Very well made. You're going to see some guys who have a real talent to drive in the wet. You put on those wet weather tires and it all just comes alive. Some other guys are going to have a poor interesting to see how that affects the team, especially.
Well, can I point out something as well? Considering we start the race at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
Okay. That means that the guys are going to be racing until 12 o'clock at night here in South Africa. So, if you've been awake from 6 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be running quite a substantial amount of time staying awake. And that's also going to play into effect, because not only the sim racing time is one thing, but the actual time that's going by. If you haven't slept in this morning, you're going to start feeling it as it gets later into the night, unless you're used to being awake very late at night. So that's another aspect to consider.
Definitely. I'll second that. Having taken part in one of the endurances towards the end of last year, I joined my 2 other aliens at that stage, Leslie and Kieran, and we raced in a 10-hour, I think it was, or a 12-hour at Imola. That finished at 4 o'clock SA time. So I'd been awake since like 8 on the Saturday morning, and the race finished at 4 a.m. Sunday morning. And I can vouch 100% there's fatigue like you cannot believe. You definitely don't see things like you did earlier. Your reaction times are slower. It was a challenge without a doubt. We finished third, by the way, but it wasn't easy.
So that's another aspect to come into, the real life aspect of being awake for a longer period of time, and how much toll that's going to take. You've literally got to tell yourself to get a little bit of sleep during the day so you can keep it going late into the evening. And that is one difficult thing to do. As we take a look at Henderson, he's having an absolute ball going off the Abshire. Abshire's been pulling a consistent gap ahead of him, 2.085 seconds ahead. So Abshire's been maintaining that gap between Hendrickson and himself, but it's going to be trying to keep it going for a longer period of time. I mean, as we are already coming up close to the 2-hour mark that we've been racing, these drivers are all trying to get into the rhythm, try to keep it going, and also a little bit of planning in the cars is happening. You can be sure the teams are saying, listen, let's try and change the tire pressures here and there, let's do small little changes to try and keep it going as they push on and go forward. But also working through back markers is going to be a tiring process by itself, because you're constantly having to move offline or try get out the corners a little bit quicker to work your way around back markers. So that's another aspect that comes into play, and another mental aspect that you've got to work out as time goes on.
Looking at the timing screens, Jason Abs's last lap was a 1:59.3 for race pace, where their best lap was a 1:58.5. So they're certainly pushing on. And William Hendrickson, a 1:59.0, his last lap. So that was even quicker, a 1:59.0, chasing down the back of Jason Absma. So these guys are the quickest guys on the track right now. Daniel Rowe just does a 1:59.4 his last lap. So guys are sub 2 minutes after 2 hours of racing. That's some impressive pace going.
Pushing. It's like they're just not turning it off.
Yeah, they're driving it pretty much like sprint racing, and just implementing pit stops when they need to. As you see a spun out black and green Jag at the back of the circuit.
You say Jag there, Alan?
Sorry, not Jag, Aston, I beg your pardon. Looks the same. At Stone, there was It's a black and green Aston that had just
I
turned
don't know
around
if
at
you've
Stowe.
offended a lot of people or no people, but
No, not at all. No. Listen, I'm a big Aston and a big Jag fan, so yeah, I've got you. Sorry, guys. Anyway,
I don't know as a fan if that's better or worse for you or not. I mean, you know.
Look, I've got to say one thing. Jags, and I'm going to really put my foot in my mouth here, from the real racing side. I've driven a MG. I was very fortunate to have driven an Alpha, and I can tell you they leak like crazy, and Jaguars do exactly the same. I'm yet to see the Aston leak a lot. So, as an Aston fan, please don't compare Aston to Jag.
I don't want your leaky North Highlands car coming into one of my car here.
I think one of the designers copied the other one because they are very similar in looks though. But anyway, C Deploy from 12th place in the Mackie coming into the pits for a pit stop. So this is round 2 of pit stops, pretty much on the button as we speak. And for the next 15 minutes, we'll see the whole field now do their second pit stops, and we should see some position changes happening here. I can tell you my PWSR team, Chris, going through some of the back markers, they got quite severely knocked and have sustained a 3 or 4 second bit of damage to the bodywork. That dropped them off the back of Hendrickson quite a lot. As you can see, they 18 seconds down the road, but still strong in 4th place, and the car's putting in decent lap times. But yeah, they took a little bit of a collision by a slow marker, a back marker that they were going fast. Their last lap was a 2:01, so not too bad at the pace. But Jason Abses and Daniel Rose, etc., doing 1:59.6s and 1:59.5s. The pace is hot up front.
It really is hot up front, and going down now, we've just hit that 2-hour race point mark here. So we are going to take a quick immersion break for the next 5 minutes. That allows all of our commentators to go and grab something to drink and refresh. It allows you guys to get something to refresh as well. From within the box, who are we going to follow on board with for our immersion break? I mean, we'll take this out to the viewers and a vote for the future ones, but for this one, who are we gonna follow on board with? I know we got a lot of bias here, so I feel like only Stephen is allowed to choose.
I would have to, at the moment, the closest race is between Heineke and Loganberg. So I think keeping on these two is something to keep an eye out for. They're fighting for position 5th and 4th place, and they are really pushing hard left and right to try and get by. So I think let's keep an eye if Loganberg might be able to put some pressure on, knowing that there's a little bit of damage on Heineke's car. So I think this is one to keep an eye for.
Okay, this is the POV that we're going to be over with. We'll be back with you guys in 5 minutes. Please go and hydrate yourselves. Make sure that you are drinking lots of water, and we'll see you guys over in roughly 5 minutes. are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 10 hour of Silverstone, of course, brought to you by Speed Labs, Resource Complete, PWSR, Black Ribbon Simulations, and Racing Club International. We were following on board with the likes of the Lockenberg and just drop down the onboard car sound so that we can get back to normality as we exit out through our immersion break. Eugene obviously getting past the PWSR Bentley in that immersion break as well, so getting up into P4. I do also have a little bit of sad news, and that is that one of our commentary team has to depart. He has adulting duties to complete, and that will be Mr. Richard Herring, also known as Angelus ZA, and the head of Black Ribbon Simulations. So over to you, Richard. Richard, I know you said you had about 10 minutes to go when we last chatted, but do you want to wrap up here and say goodbye to everybody and maybe have a bit of a cry?
There's going to be definitely a cry. I want to say there's 7 hours and 51 minutes left, and I want to be here for them, but unfortunately my little man is going to need some parents around when we get home, so I'm going to accept that I go do the dad duty thing. I'm very sad to see this to go though, because this is going to turn out to be the most epic race. You are going to see me very shortly in the comments, and I'll just come and make stuff for you since there. But to everyone who has joined us in the stream, guys, thank you so much for coming, taking the time, spending some time with us, watching some extremely exciting sim racing. We hope to see you guys for the remainder of the 10 hours. Let's keep smashing that thumbs up button as well. Thanks, George and the guys who stay, I really appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah, it's important. That 69 like goal, I said it in the chat earlier, so that I can get nudes sent to me. If I send funny pictures to my girlfriend, then I'll get nudes sent to me. So you guys are technically helping me out and helping our channel out, and it's all good for sim racing. So I'm still here. Alan Patterson, of course, is still going to be joining me till the end of the 10 hour, and we still have the likes of Stephen Koenig here. Richard, are you on and out now, or you still have me for a couple of minutes?
You have 2 more minutes.
So basically, you're on and out. Like basically, I know what you can do in 10 minutes. We've done a lot together.
Right.
I'm not going down that road.
I mean, the bait was there. It wasn't there. It wasn't taken. So no fish to catch. But yeah, Rich, just from me, big thank you for coming through and spending some time with us in the comms box. A big thank you to all the work that you put into your company with Black Ribbon Simulations and getting involved with us. We really do appreciate it. We see Eleanor getting involved here as well with PWSR. A lot of pressure on here, so we'll follow along with that. But yeah, Rich, just a massive thank you. And if you guys haven't checked out Black Ribbon Simulations, of course, they've got a website. They've just announced a big affiliate program with Fanatec. So we talked about some big sim racing gear. If you want to get your big boy pants on, go and check out what Rich is doing there with Black Ribbon Simulations.
Yeah, good stuff. As well, just to throw it out there, my partners will love this. Just also affiliated with Sparko Gaming. They want in on the scene, so expect to see them in the next endurance race with some stuff.
I'm looking forward to slapping some Sparko logos on streams. We need to talk business, and definitely keen to continue with you in the future, dude.
Dude, it's been such a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Sweet.
Cheers, Richard.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
So with all good things come bad things, and that bad boy this time around going to be Mike Jones over from Racing Club International. We roped in our American associate here, the head of RCI really, if you need any business done, and he also does some commentary. So Mike Jones, our American, our bad boy. I didn't mean bad in bad commentary, I just meant like you're a bad boy. So good to have you with us, Mike.
George, I just felt like you were going full Jesse Lee on me for a second. That's about what I would expect out of him. He must have been rubbing off on you when you've been casting for some of our RCI gigs.
Is that another pun? Are we continuing with sexual puns like the whole rest of the next 7 hours and 47 minutes? Because I can do it.
I just thought the girlfriend you were referencing was Ryan. So
it's not. It's not Ryan. My girlfriend's a secret. You guys don't know about her, so it's not a troll. I know you guys think I'm trolling.
Your suitcase to the UK?
She she might fit into the suitcase. You know, if I get 69 likes on the stream, guys, please like the stream. Don't forget to get us to our like goal of 69 likes.
69 for news, 420 for packaging up for the UK.
I mean, that's also fair. We currently have 69 concurrent viewers, so there's obviously some sort of semblance coming in from the universe at this point. But we do see that LNR does dispatch a PWSR there. So this Heineken is struggling a little bit in his Bentley here at this point. Team principal Alan, do you have any insights for us?
Well, I do. Unfortunately, is that they did mention a bit of contact about 20 minutes ago in the other chat that I've got open. So Chris is carrying a little bit of probably aero damage somewhere or somehow, but he's doing the best he can. Their lap times aren't too off the pace, 2:0s and 2:01. So, and we kind of due for next round of pit stops in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So hopefully they'll be able to fix that, come out with a better aero package and then set it up from there. One thing I do also need to raise is car number 99. We have a driver change that's happened there, and this is being driven by a Mr. Greg Hunted. I'm not sure if you're all in on this story or not, but Greg Hunted. George, do you know anything about this?
No, this is all news to me. I'm learning things as we go. Story time with Alan Patterson. Brace yourselves, lock yourselves in. Here we go. Got him on the stream in that Flying Gypsies #1.
That's it.
So story time, let's go.
I'm not too sure what the story is. It's the poor man has been renamed, obviously partnering up with Philip Minnar and Jeff Carr for Flying Gypsies team #1 car. But Greg Hunted has been requested to be commentated on all afternoon as Greg Hunted and not as his normal name. So that's why he's also called this name in the entry list, which is not his normal name.
What is his real name?
Greg Hunter. So,
Greg Hunter doing great work then in the
yes.
number 99. Just, I mean, that's the cheapest way to rename yourself, I suppose. Is ID changes are expensive. Just rename yourself in the sim and then just show all your colleagues and your friends and family that this is now your new name. I get it.
Yeah. Well, I just needed to bring that to everyone's attention.
So, Mike, you've been kind of joining in with the broadcast at some points via the YouTube stream. Do you have any insights that you want to make a note of?
Yeah, George, I mean, mostly I think the big story of the race so far is actually the BRG team. I mean, they qualified first in P1 at the start of the race. They got P6 pretty, not super early, but early enough, suffering in that McLaren. What you guys thought was maybe some tire pressure issues or something. Of course, McLaren, not known for its tires, right? Not long term, especially in comparison to the Bentley and the Aston. We did just see them in pit lane having story time with Alan, so they've made a bit of an early pit stop compared to the rest of the field as well. And they've fallen down now to P6, 2. New driver in the car, Jason and Bruno, are sticking stints 2 and 1, respectively. So now Arno will be taking over the car here, George. And I'm curious, now that they're back down to P6 with Arno in the car, how do you think he's going to fare? Do you think he's going to be able to, once the pit stop shake out, get back up to P2?
I think, I guess this is also like a bit of full disclosure. I mean, Arno is someone that we're trialing out for this pairing up with Jason and Bruno. Most of our endurance races, we've always brought in a third driver who we've then chatted about trying to join the team full time. They've always had other offers from other teams and things through that. So, you know, for us, Arno Visaki kind of fits into a good schema here. He's a young driver. He's really worked on his consistency a lot, and certainly has the ability to be the fastest in the team when he puts his head down. So it's always been a hot lapper, and he's been dialing in that consistency. He's had a couple of incidents in a couple of streams that I've been involved in, and those are things that people will always bring up with me. But drivers deserve second chances all the time, and you can't just throw away young talent just based on one hot-headed moment that's happened. So for me, Arne Vasaki definitely someone to keep an eye out on. I might be playing the cards open by saying that we'd love to have him in the team, but that's the reality of it. He's a talented driver. He deserves to be appreciated. And if he doesn't get picked up by WRG, he'll certainly get snapped up by one of the other big racing teams. It's certainly going to come to shock to his teammates and everybody to hear that. That's certainly my ambition here, is to bring him into WRG. So why not do it with a bang on a live stream and just know that Arno certainly deserves a spot in a big racing team. And for us, I'm trying to grow WRG as I grow, and I'm looking to get some real live sponsors on board to start making things more incentivizing for drivers and start competing up against some of the big teams like ATK, who really have been able to flex their budgets and be able to show that there's more to this sport than just the ability to race under a name. As banners grow, as things grow, the need and desire to start to make this a more full-time thing for your drivers, even a part-time thing, an incentive thing, money, whatever you can get for them, that's certainly the goal. And as a team principal and getting the opportunity to partner with White Rabbit Gaming, they've got successful gaming teams in the field throughout. And for me, it's about now getting the sim racing team up to the same level and trying to use the connections and things that I've grown to make something more of just these fake race teams, as I always like to call them. I want this to be something bigger, and I know that the likes of Alan also have that same goal, and some of the big race teams all have that same like-mindedness in the goal here.
And I think that this right here that's on screen is really telling for Arno as well, as we see the blue McLaren, as we've seen a couple times so far this race. But this is him navigating through traffic right here, and this, of all things, is really telling about how he will develop into an endurance driver, right? As you said, a known good hot lapper doesn't make a good endurance driver, but so far doing pretty well to navigate through some of this lap traffic. So if this is what he can do and this is what he can be, then I think he'd be an excellent addition to the WRG team. And another team that you mentioned, George, just riffing off of your question about was the ATK team. I'm specifically going to mention the ATK Academy team, Cole Brothers. Obviously, they had early trouble. They had that damage. They hit it, I think, about 20 minutes early off the top of the hour. They hit it about 40 minutes of the race with damage. Their teammate currently in the car, rather than Cole Brothers. But, they're on a recovery drive at this point with their early damage. And I think that they have plenty of time to make it up. Still within that easily top 10 range. Even rather than be able to agree that I think you believe they should stay in the top 10. But can they make it up to the top 5? That's the question at this point. I think it would be a fun for him, but if they get 7 hours 45 minutes of the race, you never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, Arne Vasaki is not new to endurance driving, that's for sure. He's been racing with Retro Racing for Retro Esports, and he's done a couple of 24 hours with the Retro guys in iRacing, so he's been involved with a little bit more endurance racing. But another one to bring out is BWSR, who've been doing very, very well with their consistency at this point, despite having damage on their car. Chris Heineke has been really getting that car around the circuit and just really working on keeping it consistent, so hats off to him. And Daniel Rowe in first place. Since they got past, the team has been opening up a massive gap, and Rowe making sure to keep that going right through the race. Hendrickson up to second place, so they are going to be quite happy with that, with Loganberg in third place. But a name that we haven't seen pop up to our fourth place is Barrington Smith. Been keeping it consistent and slowly been working his way up to the top.
It's an incredibly mixed field of drivers, and what Mike has said there with the ATK team, they certainly have a lot of potential from the start of kind of how they formed up. I'm quite interested to see whether this partnership here develops into something more, whether Jaden drives more with the ATK team. I know he's on loan here from EKZ at this point, but he's someone that I picked up from the PS4 side of things. I got very involved with the EKZ team, and I was very interested in the GT Sports side, and that's where Jaden really caught my eye. And the fact that he's now come over to the ACC side, it hasn't taken him long to get up to being up to pace with a lot of the fast guys in the scene. So I think there's a lot of potential in the development side from the youth and the younger generation. I think particularly with sim racing, it's always had a bit of a barrier to entry, which has always kind of meant that you kind of get into it later on when you can afford to get your sim gear and you can get set up. But with people getting into the market a little bit earlier, getting in with entry-level gear, starting up when they're 13, 14 in racing sims in general, and then finding these competitive leagues and environments. I think that's the development of sim racing as a whole. And the younger that you can get people started, the more potential you can unlock out of people. I think looking down the order, you do have a mixture of people in the international scene who are older guys that are incredibly quick, but in general, a lot of the youngsters are the ones that are starting to become that emerging, developing talent, which is, it's not different to many other esports, is it, Mike?
It's really not. I mean, I come from a background originally of League of Legends, right? So this is where I originally was shoutcasting in. Most of the League of Legends, even the pro esports teams, by the time you're 22 to 25, like that's towards the end of your career. And I'm sure, George, you have experience with a lot of shooters, and Call of Duty and whatnot. It's much the same there, right? Like you kind of check out at your mid-20s. Like, well, when we'd be, like if me and you were competing, we'd be old, in our late 20s, early 30s. And it's good to see sim racing, is more balanced in that regard. The older generation, the middle generation, and the younger generation be here together on one field and be competing against each other, and it's all competitive for everybody, right? Doesn't matter if you're 13, doesn't matter if you're 18, doesn't matter if you're 50. I mean, look at the PCDC Motorsports team, Vincent Airbage. He is the massive driver of races with us over RPI, and guys are young, and he's that's the racer that we launched over at RPI, and it's just fantastic to see these guys be able to pair up with people like older. I think your year is what, 14, 13?
Yeah, I think Junior is 13 years old.
Yeah. And it's just fantastic to think that, that these guys out here and could see quite a bit of dodging and weaving here from Marno, just position all that as well, and get the past 150. A lot of bobbing, maybe a couple cars off track, but he's slowly making his way up there, George. I think that's up so far since he started his stint, and more to make up.
Mike, your microphone on mine's flaking in and out a little bit, so I don't know if it's just on my end. I just want you to.
I couldn't hear you, but it was fading out completely there for him, so I think it's
right
issues.
Just right at the end, it just disappeared out. But we see some breakboard markers being just murdered in the background. Talking about young talented drivers, also big shout out to Alec Enslin in the chat, LT. One of the drivers that I've been good friends with for a long time. He's got big things lined up, but of course does a lot of work over for Coach Dave Academy and their setup side. So keep an eye out on a lot of these names and South African names, especially our youngsters, going out into the European scene and just making a name for sim racing over on that side of the field. And it's been so humbling to see that the acceptance levels from our international counterparts have the exact same feeling as our local scene, where we're all competitive, but we all have a big support for one another. So you often see big integrations between communities doing things, and we've always said this, we're still going to set it up, and we're going to have a best of EU versus best of South Africa race come down definitely in 2021. We've got the resources with Racing Club International partnerships, and of course with Raceface, we've got big access to our local talent pool. So hopefully we can get that set up. Eugene van Lachenberg making a bit of a mistake, running wide, correcting himself in that number 27. But it's all that fatigue, driver, tyre wear, and a combination of those things. So just in time for Eugene van Lachenberg. He is going into the pits. Van Lachenberg, I think I always missed the middle part of that surname. But, what is Sherman Tinsky to Stephen Koenig is Van Lachenberg to G-Max.
Welcome to the Butcher Name Club. Please pick up
let me give you a name to pronounce here, George. You remember the name Chumley?
Oh yeah, let's not get that now.
Cholman.
Yeah, so the name is spelled Cholm. It's spelled out phonetically Cholmondili. That's how you would read it phonetically. It's that long. We've called it that on these Racing Club International broadcasts for like 6 streams. Eventually, he has a big following on Twitch. They're all in the Twitch chat telling us that you actually pronounce it Chumli, like that entire thing with syllables in the middle. You just forget it all. It's just Chumli. And we couldn't believe it, so we were all kind of not believing it. We put it into the Google Translator midstream, got corrected by ourselves, and we're like, okay, we have to change this. So half our commentary team switched to Chumley, the other half thought it was all a massive troll and they didn't want to switch. But yeah, surnames are difficult. They always catch us off guard. So Butcher Club, I mean, I could open a butchery for sure. I get every sort of opportunity to have some attempts at Afrikaans surnames. Those ones catch me off guard, but
well, that's funny. I mean, that's entertainment.
I don't like that you like that my Afrikaans is entertaining, but I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. I'll sell what I can get. It's going to be a tough year next year. Maybe I'll sell some inspirational Afrikaans learning guides. Afrikaans with net G-Max, G-Max. We'll change my name especially for that.
Well, I've got to ask now that we've broken out the 2-hour mark, how do you think the drivers are starting to feel now as this day starts to wear on, the driving starts to go on? The guys are getting into some sort of rhythm, but now you're also fighting in and around faster and slower cars. The mental side, you have to think of, okay, how am I going to back all the way through without sustaining damage on the vehicle? What do you guys think is going to be the main of between all the drivers and
Safety first. I think when navigating through the traffic, you're always reminded of the fact that if you push too hard in a situation that you could have been more patient on, you can really just wreck the race for your entire team, and then you're not letting yourself down, you're letting a lot of people down. So I think the pressure sits on you to know that you got to be safe, and at the cost of a couple of seconds a lap even, it's better to do that, take a safe approach and get your way through safely. Back markers are going to ease off eventually. Like if they just blue flag for 4 corners, there's no ways they're just going to continue to sit there. They will move themselves off. And if they persist to sit on that line, they risk getting reported to race control. So you just got to know that they're going to go wide, they're going to let you through. And there we see a good example of Fasaki coming through Stowe, just waiting it up, getting past the 777 and continuing his way. And good pace coming out from Arno, even through the traffic. I mean, he got past Heineke in that 101, and then he's continued to just express his love for the lap.
We actually saw him pick up another position as well.
You've got 3 laps to serve this penalty.
4 again. He's doing really good digging through this traffic. Hopefully he is being able to pick up this time. Of course, when Jason pitted, he was in P2. So he's got a couple of positions to make up. But however, the problem for him at the moment is that he's in a McLaren. The cars in front of him are going to get better fuel economy without that stint timer enabled in this race. The Bentley and the Aston are going to be able to run a little longer than the McLaren will. Might have to make one less stop during this race. So especially the Bentley,
rear brakes are cold.
Struggle with towards the end of the race. But I think Daniel Rowe at this point in the 43, they've kind of checked out. Unless they have problems, they're pretty much gone. But Hendrickson is going to be a problem. I think that's going to be his target for this entire race. The 149 Aston, I think they've got the pace to make it. I don't know, George, if they're going to be able to make out this Gripex engineering team. Hendrickson, Shermatinsky, and those guys are really, really quick. As here's the 149 in the pit. We can see that pit stop happened, Jason pitted about 15 minutes ago, if I'm doing my math right.
Yeah.
So we can see that the Aston came in 15 minutes later than the McLaren, and Bruno on his original pit did not necessarily pit early.
No, and Bruno was struggling tremendously in his first stint, especially trying to start that race and keep the car up front. Feeling that pressure did get to him with regards to the tyre wear. I'm sure the McLaren
is now in the lead.
It certainly didn't look like it was an easy road sailing, and I think for this G-Force Retro team, I mean, their driver lineup is incredibly strong, and Daniel Rowe has done such a good job to put them up towards the front end of the order that right now it's in their control. It's their race to lose. If they make a mistake, it's obviously going to change up. But Rowe's been doing a great job. He hasn't really felt too much of the pressure coming in from the back markers. He's found those quick, consistent laps when he can get them in, but he's not doing exceptionally alien-like lap times. He's just banging in on the consistency, making sure he gets that lap after lap. For them, that's important, because the rest of his team, they're the guys that can really push the lap times. I mean, Daniel Rowe here is to me their safe bet, their safe driver. He's still fast, but I mean, they've got Jason Krabler and Brian Lewis still to go in this car.
It's the driver you want in the middle of the race. So I don't know about you, Al. I don't think you're a driver that you want in the car, but that's the driver I want in my car.
Yeah, look, he's obviously been quick for them in the opening stints and double stint, so it is going to be interesting to see what happens when the other guys get in. While we've been talking about all this, I've also been watching our Grumpy Monkey team, currently now down in 12th place. They've unfortunately, in the drive, the pit stop, Crocomp handed the car over to Ross Bartle, and I think they got a speeding pit lane speeding penalty, so they've dropped down from, I think they were currently sitting in 7th or 8th down to 12th place at the moment. And Ross has just gone through the pits now when Fasaki did, and has completed or cleared the penalty, and they're back out in 12th place now. My team PWS are going to be pitting shortly, and driver number 3 climbing in, so they sticking to their original plan. Following on what Stephen was saying about driver times and stints, they basically worked out whatever their timing slots are going to be, and they would change as and when they pitted the car, which is an hour 15 or hour 20 on the Bentley. So they're doing basic stints, no double stinting on anything, and Marcus Stein's going to get in the car for the 3rd stint in the next 5 minutes. Hopefully they'll also get the repairs fixed and then should pick up some pace. And they're currently sitting in 4th, so not out of it, but in a good place to be with still 7.5 hours to go.
Well, if
Alan, I'd like to pose just a quick question to Alan. Really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think the PWSR team lost the position with the
23rd place?
They'll be able to make it up?
They did. They were sitting in 2nd after the driver change to Chris Heineke getting in the car, but during the chase with Hendrickson and trying to keep up to the back of Rowe, they passed a train of back markers, and one of them apparently hit the Bentley. It was unsighted to all of us. I've just heard by the other team chat, and they picked up about 7 seconds worth of damage on the car from the contact, and they lost. They were within 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds off the back of Hendrickson. They dropped down to about 20-something seconds off the back of him. So the Fasaki changeover has happened definitely because Heineke can't get the car under 201s where they were doing 159s. So I'm sure they're desperately waiting to get in the pits and change the put new boots on the car, and then also get the aero repaired and put a driver in.
Aero damage, not what you wanted, sorry to interrupt you, Steve. I just wanted to grab that before we switch subject perhaps.
No, absolutely fine. It's actually really interesting. But just to let you guys know, Daniel on lap 77 have officially done 453.6 kilometers of driving. Alright, now that is absolutely incredible in terms of how many kilometers of driving you actually do on the sim. I think it's something that gets forgotten as time goes on, is you're not just driving, and driving along and it's all fine. You've actually got proper kilometers. I mean, the circuit is 5.891 kilometers long. These drivers are fighting their way through it, and to see how many kilometers they have done within the first 2.5 hours is
Yeah, currently on 78 laps with William Hendrickson, and then everyone else on 77 laps down to 6th place.
23.
Jaden Gambon and others on 70 now going over the line onto 77. So Daniel Rowe and the second place Bentley definitely putting on a huge amount of pace. Pasaki, Heineke, Spamas, etc. not that far back, but they're going to hope for a bit of a problem or hope that Rowe gets into a bit of problems, or one of the next drivers that gets in that car possibly a little bit down on pace or not as quick, and they can close the gap back up to them.
So this car that I've switched over to here has absolutely nothing in terms of close battles around them, but it does have a very important driver at the wheel. The 484 Kinetic Simworks racing car has Bertus Hugo at the wheel, and for those that are watching who don't know about Bertus is the man behind Raceface. He put everything together all those years ago and has continued to develop and put time into the scene. A massive shout out goes to him for all the hard work that he does put into things. So if you are in the chat and you're able to type in there, I'd like you to just type Bertus is the best. It would be nice if you guys could participate and just give some love over to the man who puts a lot of time and effort into this. He has a family, he has all kinds of things, and he always has plenty of time for you. So if you have had an engagement with Bertus, you'll know what an asset he is to sim racing. And from me and the rest of the commentary crew, just a big thank you to him for everything that he does for the Raceface family.
I wonder what he'd think, or if he'd be a little bit angry if we kind of dragged him and dropped him into the commentary booth while he's driving.
No, he will be angry. I don't think we should do that. I don't want to get fired.
Okay.
We'll leave that for next weekend, George. If you drop by Jesse and
202.44.
USGI team, we're going to be streaming some POV streams for some of our cars that are racing in an endurance race. And that's what we were doing. We were just dropping into the team chats and just being like, hey guys, you're live.
Yeah, I did that for Steve. It worked out perfectly. Why would he be angry? What the hell?
Had a driving penalty for cutting the track.
Fuck.
No. The main thing that came in whenever Alan was like, "Hey, we got you on the camera." I landed
Got 3
at
laps
spinning
to
fork.
serve this
So
penalty.
Alan, you can stay right away from me while I'm driving.
Okay, no problem. It was actually very funny. Every time I did pull Steve in for a chat on that Division 2 race we had, we'd watch Steve do a nice pirouette or put the car in the tie barriers, but Steve's very calm behind the microphone. There was no signs of blue foul language or anything. I was like, Steve, you're facing the wrong way. He's going, "Oh no, wait, I'm aware of that. I'll get it right now." Hang on. It was quite entertaining.
You were on push to talk. I promise you, there was some.
Okay, all right, just checking on that.
But absolutely incredible. I've got to say, I'll give it up for the Griffiths team. They've been really working hard. They got into second place.
Guys, are we sure it's not grip hacks, eh? Like, because to me that makes more sense. Like, I'm a grip hacker, like I'm a racer. Grip hacks makes sense. Grip hacks sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
Russian.
Grip hacks.
The question is, how would you pronounce that in Russian?
I'm just saying
grip a hard
grip hacks, yeah. Like, to me, it's grip hacks as opposed to grip. Grip. I mean,
I'll ask Ivan, because they're actually racing in our endurance championship as well. I was talking to Ivan earlier today.
I keep on in my. I've been corrected in another broadcast before as saying it wrong and it needing to be grip hacks. So I would love to know.
That's Jim right now.
How to say this team name, to be honest. I've heard them in other teams be referred to as, in other streams be referred to as both. So I mean, it's
Look out for the pit speed
it's much
limit.
of a muchness, as we see two EKZ teams following suit behind one another. Number 44 in the 555, Tristan in the 555 in 8th place in that Mercedes. he's called me out for saying his name wrong before, as like on the live stream. He literally called me out for doing it. So now he's just
We've got
known as
2 laps
Tristan,
left to come in
and
and
he
serve
doesn't
this
even get a
penalty.
surname
All
'cause I
clear,
don't
on
know
pit
how to
exit.
say it properly.
Blue flag.
You guys can attempt it, and if you get shouted at, then you can also refer to him as Tristan. But he's a really quick driver, I must admit.
Alright, so I've just gone through Google Translate to get it in Russian. It's Greek carcass. I've got that completely butchered, but that's coming off Google Translate.
I think we're not going to go. I think we're not going to go with that one, to be honest.
No,
we're going to skip
no.
a hard skip.
I've shot a message to Ivan Shermatinsky, who's Edmonton's teammate. We'll see if he comes back. But obviously he got me a little busy responding for his teammate. But I'll see if he comes back with, because I've been pronouncing it Grifax the entire time they've been racing. Quite a while. I could be wrong.
Maybe.
Me and Jesse have known to be wrong.
No, it's going to be interesting. I've got to say, I'm
Car right.
very interested to see
Clear
how
right
the
to
race
the
is
right.
going to turn out. As it starts getting a bit more, it's light, but the overcast is there. So you can see lights are still on for a lot of these drivers. But as we head into the night, that's where it's going to be interesting. Because it's remembering where your brake markers are, trying to figure out where everything is. Especially after a couple of guys have kindly removed the brake markers from where they should be, it makes it very difficult to find your points in corners. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to go as we head into the night. So far it is 10:03 in game time, so I'm curious to see how they're going to do, especially with the sunset.
Boys, I have our answer.
All right.
Group hacks.
What's the over under here?
Group hacks.
You're correct. Grip hacks.
I would like everybody to on publicly live stream just say sorry George, you are correct and amazing. You don't have to put the amazing part in, it's optional.
Shut up.
But wasn't it you that was saying group hacks at the start of the
Let's make
stream?
sure we can
Wrong.
take
I
a
said it was grip
B27.
hacks. I said it was grip hacks. I corrected myself to say it's actually grip hacks because I
But you
I followed
started.
you guys. No, I followed you guys because you guys were bad habits and I am
Okay.
a good I'm like an angel. I'm a good influence. I affect my peers correctly.
Sorry, just choking on the water there.
Bad coffee.
It's weird. Usually when I'm in the comm box with George, I have a mute button, but my mute button isn't been working on this
It doesn't,
server,
eh?
You guys are risking coughing in a COVID time, and you're going to get taken away by authorities if you keep that up. So that's at your detriment. Those that do not want to believe the influence of my colleagues, I'm a good influence, and I hope they pronounce names correctly. If you want to follow
George,
more of my...
What were you going to get at 69 likes again as the good influencer?
Oh yes, at 69 likes, guys. We had 64 likes on the stream. Good reminder. 64 likes. 65 likes now. At 69 likes, I get nudes from my girlfriend because I can send her that and be funny. So you guys are helping me. And then after 69, then we have to chase 169. So that's the big one. Prepare yourselves. But 69 is the easy goal.
420 is your next.
No. 169, then 420. And everything with 69 in between.
You know what? I just want to say a reminder to all the guys watching. Please do not go look up what 69 is if you're under the age of 18.
You've already
It
now
is not
made
worth
everybody, they already know, and you've already told them, and you don't have to be that
it's
guy.
just math. Like if you look to the left of your screen, there's various numbers along the left, and if George scrolls down slightly, you will find card number 69. Of course, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so it's just a number. 70 minus 1 can be the way that you refer to it as well, but 69...
Or 68 plus 1.
68, you know, Mike with a plan, he knows what it's at. Steven trying to influence the... you see how Steven tried to influence people with the reverse psychology?
Not to interrupt you, but we just went from 68 to 70. I didn't even say it on 69, sorry.
I've got it on 69. Guys, someone just unlike it.
You better unlike the screen.
No, it's on 68. It's on 68. Come on, guys.
It's now on 69. Now people are starting to take clicks away.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, we got the screenshot, guys. You now can continue to smash that like button. 169 is where I get a next stretch goal.
Next goal.
I can't tell you what that one is.
Next goal is dislikes at 69.
No, don't. Mike, if you do that, like I will unfriend you. 69. You can continue to go up to 169. You guys are the best. Thanks for the like goals. Everybody in the chat, thank you very much. Speed laps RCI Resource Complete PWS on Black Ribbon Simulations, bringing you this 10 hour of Silverstone. Welcome back to 2021 for us, a lot of us, for myself most certainly. I've been having a nice little holiday and just kind of selling my house and planning my move over to Europe, which is all spur of the moment thanks to chatting to Jimmy Broadbent. He told me to sell my house and buy a GTR, so I'm selling my house and then I'm going to buy it. Yeah, I'm going to buy a GTR in the UK rather, because I just added that I want to go to the UK with his advice. So Jimmy Broadbent made me do
it. Be different. Buy a Supra. Don't buy another GTR. Buy something else.
Oh. No, very specifically, Jimmy told him to buy a GTR. So
Jimmy Broadbent, like, you know who Jimmy Broadbent is. So I mean, like,
of course.
If Jimmy tells you to buy a GTR, did you say Jimmy's South African?
No, I'm saying you South African. You mustn't go for a GTR. You must go for a GTI. Carry some of that South African back.
There you go.
I was trying to actually like JC Crubber's message there, and I held it for me by mistake in the chat. He was saying that if you guys make it 69 dislikes, you get nudes of me, which is something you don't want to get, so don't just like.
The leader, bro, is spitting.
No, thank you.
But guys, there's been a race going on. I don't know if anybody happened to forget that. The WRG team has made their way to P3, and we've got the ATK Academy team in pit. So they're going to drop a couple more positions here. They're having to pit a little bit early. They're going to end up having to make their pit stop if they keep this up. They're going to try and stretch that fuel, I think, because they've got 7 more pit stops of this, and if they're not careful in that Mercedes, they're going to make it 8.
You're not wrong, Mike. You're not wrong. It's certainly a close race, and on circuits it looks like Greg Hunted for the Flying Gypsies closing down onto the back of Coda in that.
Well, for now.
Oh, it looks like he's got past Coda actually. Christian Coda is actually sitting behind, so it looks like that move has already been done.
And he has got a 30-second penalty on as well, and that's major.
30 seconds is eternity. Like, you can serve that when you go into the pits, so you're going to see where you come out almost immediately, but that is a big one. You see Myberg also with a 10-second time penalty against his name, so you just need to be careful of this. You can throw away a lot of the hard work you do on circuit by a bit of silly driving.
Leaders in the pits, by the way.
I see it. I just caught it there. Is he out of the pits as well? Johannes Kreiling, the man at the wheel. So I kind of expected another safe driver for the middle stint, as we talked about. I think JC Krobler and Brian Ruiz, the little pocket rockets, going to come out and dance and show some dashing lap times towards the end. But for them, they're kind of planning this perfectly. Kreiling now at the wheel. Daniel Rowe, a well-deserved break and a phenomenal stint from him. So big shout out to Daniel for that. And very interesting to see how this team continues to do, because that team lineup, that driver lineup, you look at that as a sim racing fan and you go, yeah, that's a bit scary, eh? They got the pace.
Yeah, strong team. Look, Daniel's done 3 hours. That's a serious stint he's done. That's 3 pit stops essentially. So we'll see now what the other guys can do. I'm very interested to see what the net lap times are. PWSR, we've got a change. Marcus Stein got in the car just now. He's now going sub 2 minutes lap times. And pit stops done at 6th place. So Hendrickson, Versace, Spammers, a couple of other cars all up there that need to pit now. And then we shall see what the current position standings are in a couple of minutes, I'd say.
I'm actually really curious to see how long Hendrickson's going to go before he
gets. Well, he's in the pits now.
Bentley stretching the fuel. Oh, there he is. He is. So they have the Bentley stretching the fuel as far as they can.
Yeah.
But they are going to come in for their pit stop. So at this rate, that should hopefully what Soggy is hoping is going to bring him back up to P2. We'll see if that's able to happen for them. But realistically, they need to make that position up, because that's where they were before Arno got in the car. So he did not make up P2, which is looking a little rough for him right now. He's coming down the back straight, and Hendrickson's going to have to go very shortly. He may have lost a little time versus Hendrickson, and that could cost him on track compared to what Jason has made up. So here he comes around the final corner. Hendrickson just leaving his pit box, and that is, from the look of it, going to be just a touch of loss of time, now whether that's due to Arno's pace versus Henderson, or whether that's due to the... Actually, nope, he is going to get past him. I'll eat my words. Henderson was back in the pit lane too far, still on the pit limiter.
Yep.
So, okay, so he hasn't lost any time, George, so your boys are holding steady, to say the least. Arno's doing a good job covering the traffic.
Yeah, he's focused. He's really just nailing the consistency as well, and good to see him just settle down. And we've seen the McLaren's not be the
324.
The longest stinting cars, but certainly got the pace to make something happen early on. Very quick car overall, and then he picked up a lot in the season from another driver. So yeah, just got to manage it, and very happy to see that things are going smoothly so far there. Shemintinsky back in the Gripbacks number 81 and settled down into third. I feel like these guys have become very, very used to what the third row of the podium feels like, but really want a taste of somewhere else.
Car on the right. Right side. Right side's clear.
Yeah, you want to take a step up every race.
Car right. Clear right.
They've got the Bentley. They've
Richardson
got that
behind is pitting now.
To cut out a pit stop, and if they can cut out a pit stop, as we see the 242 Bentley get a little close to the back of the car in front there, has to kind of dive off track, and that ended up just a position down to 17th place. Car braking just a little harder in front of him than we thought that would happen. That makes the call to go off track. That's the perk here at Silverstone, though. A lot of run-off areas, so even if you need to run off track like that, Alan, it's easy enough to just rejoin without hitting the wall.
Yep. We've just watched. I've been watching Crayland go over for the first official fast lap, and it's a 201.2 from the Daniel Rose 159.5. So, and they're now currently right in amongst a bunch of traffic. So, Vasaki in the McLaren has still got a pit, if I'm not mistaken, which means Shemintinsky,
white flag,
Spamas, etc. They're all up there at the moment. So I'm following my team just to see where they come out with all of this. But there are a couple of other cars that are up there now, and Krayling is definitely not getting through the traffic as easily as Rowe was. So things are proving a bit more difficult as the race wears on, and as it also gets a little bit darker in the day.
The 101 doing pretty good at holding near that top 5, but what's your guys' goal for the race here, Alan? I mean, like 2 hours into the race, they're sitting currently in P6. I mean, are they going to be hunting for that podium? Do they think that they can make up that time over the next 7 hours?
No, I think that the general discussion before the race, after looking at the entry lists, the team's a top 5 team. There's no question there. It was always going to be about how well everybody can get through the traffic and if there's no contact, etc., etc. Leslie being the quickest driver, so he's still at least a stint away from getting back in the car. And they're currently net 6, probably 5th or 4th, with 2 cars ahead of them that still need to pit. So, if things go according to plan, there's no more contact and everyone kind of does quick laps, top 3 is very possible with this team. So that's where we're aiming for at the end of the day.
Well, you heard it there, and the Bentley, of course, like if the weather does change, it's been holding steady most of the race. It hasn't changed temperature in the past hour or so, but of course the Bentley generally, if it does rain, does pretty well in the rain, especially in the light rain versus the McLaren. The McLarens struggle quite a bit in the light rain, those mid-engine cars do. But these Bentleys and the Acid can do pretty well even in the light rain. So if it does start spraying,
you're right.
Light work in their
Clear right.
comparatively to the WRGT 17. But currently still launching the PWSR. Marcus Stein in the 101, just kind of carving his way through lap traffic here, heading down the Hanger Straight into Stowe. And he's just going to continue carving his way through, trying to make up a bit of that time. And I think that hopefully they can keep it steady.
B24.
And if Alan is saying that they can hunt for that P3, they've got 7 hours to do it, Alan. And realistically, it's a possibility. Anything can happen in this long race.
No, definitely. I mean, there's still a lot of racing to go. A lot of drama is going to happen. This race will go day to night. So at night, as Steve said earlier, you miss a lot of important factors and features of the track. You don't see braking markers with a lot of the boards that have been taken out. You can't use lines on the track. So driver's skill is going to come into effect later on, and you know, we've got to hope that the guys they have other markers, so to speak, that they can use to keep their pace and keep the lap times where they are. While we're watching them, I can tell you, I've just seen Shermatinsky in third place do a 1:58.9. Their quickest lap was a 1:58.6. So they definitely 3 hours into the race running sub 1:59s, 1:58s. They're pushing hard to get back up in contention with Verstappen and Gregor just ahead of them.
That is quick. I mean, I know from our 3 hours of so the Grippack's team participated in the
Blue flag.
recently. They overall finished in I believe it was P7 or so. Our most of the midfield there, their fastest laps of the race were those low 58 marks. Like after 3 hours all said and done, you know, those mids were 58. So you know, him running these lap times this deep into the race, and of course he's already been out on the tires at this point for a few laps or something. They have that really sticky qualifying grip left on them anymore, and he's got a full tank of fuel as well. You know, he's running these lap times, that is quick. And of course, we are watching the Grumpy Monkey team
White flag.
with the 78 all over the back of the Hendricks. They're going through the last set of corners here. Ross Bartle going to be on the inside, and I do not think that the 78 is going to get a chance unless he gets a switchback. He gets the run out of the corner. Doesn't look like he will. That Grumpy Monkey team just takes off coming out of club, and it looks like they will. Or sorry, that's not club there because we're.
Faster car approaching. Watch out.
Oh, no, that is club corner.
Yeah,
I'm so lost.
It's Wellington straight.
It's Lefield and Woodcote that they came out, and they just went through cops. Now Maggots Pickett.
Oh yeah, here's Maggots.
Yeah.
I am always, to this day, I am still lost in it is the one track that I cannot make these corners for.
But it's fine, because what happens is the track designer Eddie Francis from Monday Night Racing, he's always said it, the racetrack designer designed half of Silverstone, liked it so much that he just did it again twice. So it feels like you have very similar corners, especially from some of the camera angles that we catch. It's sometimes hard to get it. But yeah, Nuert Hendricks making that charge down towards the back of Bartle and trying to see if he can get that advantage back. I mean, he lost out hardcore coming out of Lefield. He had got all that hard work done out of the Wellington straights, and right now he's then 3-4 car lengths back of that McLaren in front of him. But a nice little McLaren train in the form of Fenton, Bartle and Hendricks from 8th to 10th, and the rest of the field all kind of like really spaced out. It's hard to find on-track battles between drivers here. It's all kind of margin and waiting for the error to be made, and that's when it then closes down again. Shermatinsky, he's closing down onto Versace. Slowly, 2.7 seconds ahead is Versace as the back-marking Ferrari runs wide out of the exit. And a lot of the drivers here are setting themselves up to try and get themselves a good mid-phase to this race. I mean, they've undergone the start, they made it through
24,
and they've now got a lot of racing under the belt, 89 laps for the race leaders. And the rest of the race now, 6 hours 59 to go, as we just crack through that 7-hour remaining mark. Alan, on your side,
yes,
I'm picking up a lot of feedback again. I don't know if everyone else gets it, but I get it, and I'm not.
Someone we haven't heard for a minute too is Steven. You've been quiet for a minute. Have you been digging around the field looking for some information?
I think he's back. Okay, sorry.
I'm back. My internet tanked on me a little bit, but I actually did a little bit of digging around with the KK Racing team, and they have a second plan. I've been told they've got a second strategy they're willing to use to try and push their way up. They're not going to divulge it, but it seems like the KK racers of the KK Works Team 1 and 2 have a plan to try and move their way up. I'm carry on trying to figure out what on earth is that plan. So I am looking around. I am trying to find some inside information to move on. But a lot of the guys saying the track is very groovy at the moment, and what they're finding is they're able to push the cars a little bit deeper into the corners right now, which is a bit strange considering that the temperature has gone down ever so slightly. It seems like the having your tire pressures getting right.
Yellow
So I
flag
see
and caution.
Minot has got a drive-through penalty as well. We cut that way earlier on in the street, and Minot, lying in 23rd, has finally hit the first off. So our first drive-through penalty has been issued.
Yeah, track limits here at Silverstone aren't easy. Alan, I think you were talking and it now got really quiet, perhaps on you. Yeah, the drive-through penalties here at Silverstone are a dime. It's really easy to run wide here at a lot of this circuit. And we have seen a lot of that here as well. Multiple cars, including the Ferrari that we just saw a minute ago, as Sherman Tiske came past him coming out of
There's a white flag.
the Ferrari ran wide, and of course he probably didn't get a warning for that as the grass slowed down enough. But in the end, we're seeing these guys push the absolute limits off of these cars to try and keep up. Sherman Tiske catching up the back of the WRG team, and even then, the WRG team has made up a little bit of time to Greenlee in that 43 Bentley. Little bit of time. Not enough to even get nowhere near him, but that's the last time he stepped in that I looked at, probably about a lap and a half ago.
The gap in front has increased. It's now about
a little bit more than
3.2
I
seconds.
expected. He was at about 18.2 behind, if I'm not mistaken. They picked up over a second that last lap, so Grayling was struggling with it.
Yeah, Grayling is definitely the more of the safe drivers, like I said, for that retro team. So what they've still got in the armory in the forms of Lewis and Grobler is going to be what makes up their time. I think Grayling here just needs to have a safe navigation through the traffic and just keep themselves in the position to be able to fight out, because those two drivers do have the ability to drop the lap times that Versace, Sherman Tiske, as well as the co-drivers in those teams have, who really have more of a mixture of relatively the same pace driver. So yeah, Johannes Grayling maybe a little bit out of the element here, but certainly not out of the out of the team in terms of what he can offer. That safety element, that ability to just get your consistency in, get through the traffic cleanly, is something that you also need in a team. So I feel like Grayling at this point in time, still lots of development to make as a driver, and certainly going to be able to pull some time out as he progresses in the season. But for now, he's definitely got that pressure coming down. Sherman Tiske is closing down on Versace, and Versace closing down on him. So I feel like Sherman Tiske and Versace will become a story before we get to the likes of Grayling, and that might buy them the time that they need as their team to then extend it out to when they need to go into the pits. It's all about that waiting game, all about sussing out your options and playing it to the best of your abilities, and knowing that your teammates also have the same sort of decisions to make as well as your rivals, all competing and making decisions on the fly and trying to see where you can get the advantage out. I mean, just look how many cars are still here. 35 cars still remain.
The gap in front has increased to 3.5
plenty
seconds.
of action still to go. 6 hours and 54 minutes to go. And we see a couple of cars maybe getting fatigued out, running wide in a couple of the off-camera angles.
So we're going to see.
We got you. What's up, Alan?
I got you.
So this is Versace in second place, and that is our Bentley in sixth place that they're coming up to lap. So essentially the leaders have left, everyone up full sixth place, showing that the outright pace of the first and second place cars.
Well, and third place, because if we look directly behind him, that is Sherman Tiske all over the back of the WRG 666 McLaren at this point. Versace under pressure from Sherman Tiske as they come out of Maggots and Beckett's through Chapel Curve and onto the Hangar Straight. We're going to see if this Bentley, he's got about, I'm going to say where he's been gaining, as soon as they hit traffic here. I would not be surprised to see him come out of one of these corners, get a little bit of burst of speed and make that dive onto Versace and make his way into P2. Arno, has done a good job carving through traffic, but unfortunately not able to put quite down the lap time that Sherman-Tinsky has. We can see them dive around that back marker. Bentley 2 more lap traffic in front of them, but this camera angle from the back of the McLaren, and here's the camera angle from the front of the Bentley, we can see just how close these guys have gotten, just in the past few laps. They're still gaining on P1, but there it is right there coming through. The McLaren gets a little bit of trouble from the back marker in front, and then the Bentley gets a little bit of trouble from the back marker in front as well, but the Bentley has slid through. Sherman-Tinsky up to P2. The fight is not quite over yet. They're going to come around and see if the McLaren can get that burst of speed out onto the Welling straight. He is all over the back. He's going to be deep into the slipstream. It's just a question here, George Smith, can he get the run into Berkowitz?
I mean, it's great driving between the two drivers, making their way through traffic, still keeping things competitive. A great spot coming out from Sherman-Tinsky to see that opportunity was there when the traffic coming out into the right-hander of Abbey was really, really backed up slow. Arno had to ease off. Sherman-Tinsky had to make a decision whether he was going to try and send it. He got caught up behind some of the traffic as well. Caught some of the grass, but managed to get it under control. So a really nice controlled decision coming out from Ivan in the Grip Hacks engineering number 81, and I think a worthwhile overtake for them. WRG, of course, then going to settle back down into third place. And this was always the phase that we saw the other two drivers struggling in, is when the end of the stint comes in for each driver. The grip levels just aren't really there to be able to hold on, so really struggling in terms of the later phases, and those lap times have dropped down. McLaren's, what's the nature of what the car is, and all of these are notes that will be made by the teams.
Yeah, as George's dog starts going off in the background, Visagi has not given up. He's wanting to go off and get past Sherman-Tinsky again, but I think at this point George Smith is right. The tires on this McLaren probably a little too worn at this point. He's towards the end of the stand. Sherman-Tinsky is not. But Bentley's tires do a little bit better over the stint anyway. So here's the other thing, and perhaps when George Smith is done settling down his dog, he can confirm. I also want to say that while we were talking about Arno earlier, obviously a quick driver, a driver that's looking to come into the White Rabbit Gaming team to join them. Bruno and Jason, being realistic, probably still a little bit quicker than Arno is. I know that Sherman-Tinsky is a little faster than Hendrickson for that Grip Hacks engineering team. So, the 81 Bentley has their fast driver in the car at the moment. The 666 does not. And I think that has something to play into it too, potentially. But of course, George, we saw Jason struggle in the first minute.
Yeah, and I think Arno is actually on pace with Bruno and Jason, if not, faster in certain circumstances when it comes down to his ability to put in a lot of practice time into things. So he is a quick driver, and I would say that on par with the likes of Jason and Bruno, I think very well matched in terms of the three of them pace-wise. So for us as a team in this situation where you do see yourself getting caught up by Sherman-Tinsky, it is not really worrying, because it's the nature of racing. It's the ebb and flow. Sherman-Tinsky, a big name, over in the European series, and to have the battle on track in that position is good in itself. So yeah, I think the push will continue on, and
that's half fuel. You've used half your fuel.
Potential, like I said. Would love to be able to.
So we're chalking up the tires, basically.
I mean, I honestly, I do this thing. I don't have any communication with my team, which is just because there's a lot of multitasking that I've got down. But hoping that there is something more to it than just what it is here, because the drop-off is coming pretty much from each of the drivers. So just as an external element, it must be something towards the later phase of that tire stage.
Yellow flag, watch out.
Well, of course, here's the car coming up behind you. I'm gonna try to pronounce this. The Windschatten team, 333 Aston, MP16. He's currently hunting down the Bentley in front, but he's diving into the pit lane 6 hours and 8 minutes left in this 10-hour race. And here's Christian Venter, the McLaren Shadow Project number 23 McLaren. Beautiful livery on this thing. I like like that, the black and purplish pink there. And something I'm curious about, Steve, you earlier were looking at the Kai K 999 and 807. They're a little farther back in the field.
On your right, clear right.
Information about them? I know you were going digging.
So what I found out is the team of Robert Wentworth, William Wentworth, Gavin Dalford, and Damon Kurshoff. Unfortunately, they had a couple of spins and one or two run-ins with the wall due to the tires dropping off on the Lexus. Now, what the plan is to try catch up to their buddies and work together as teams and keep in the slipstream and pull each other along down this like hanger straight to move them up. So, very interesting strategy that the teams are going to try and do, but a lot of hard work to move up from there, as Robert is trying to make up some of the pace, but they are down doing about 206s around the circuit, which is not incredibly quick at this point. They've got to put some real laps in to try and pull their way up. But
I'm going to bring a driver in for a chat if you don't mind. This is Greg Hunter. Greg, are you there?
V21.
Yes, I'm here, Alan. How are you?
I'm cool, man. How are you?
Sweating, but I'm good.
You enjoyed your 10 hours? You guys are running quite well?
Yes, we are. A few little hiccups here and there, some spin-offs and things, but we're getting it done, keeping the head going.
Awesome. So tell us the background of this naming system.
So what happened was last year we had an enduro race that I was supposed to do some quali times for, which unfortunately I missed. So Chantal has had this thing against me, Chantal Hansen. So that was sort of strike one. Then last week we had a GT3 race. She was 3.5 seconds up on her time, and I was behind her. Just coming into the last corner, I bumped her. So we both lost our track, and she said to me, "That's the final strike. She's going to get payback." And then she posted she's going to get the name changed, and choose Bob. There we go. There's my name changed now, across the boards, across everything. So, and as a running joke on our group, I am known as Craig. I'm always, because nobody can really say Craig.
Craig.
They just can't.
Who can't say Craig? You can't say Craig.
What I have to ask, Craig, where do your teammates hail from? Out of curiosity.
We all have Joburg.
See, that makes sense, because George, could you imagine Fabian Schmidberger trying to say the word Craig?
Yeah, no, he would. I mean, the German side would definitely struggle with saying Craig as it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I get you.
The Afrikaans culture has the same thing.
I mean, I get it. But yeah, I mean, we're very English, so you're safe. I mean, this is very safe. Yeah. I do offer Afrikaans lessons. If you guys haven't seen it, I sell them on Twitter. But other than that, very English.
Now
can I just ask what your team number is, so that we can run your
Number 99.
So I do have a question for you, Greg.
Go for it.
You're in the Mercedes, which doesn't necessarily have the fastest lap times around Silverstone. With some of the bomb changes they've made, but I am curious, how has your guys' tires been in that Mercedes?
So we actually managing our stints according to our tires as opposed to our fuel. Our tires are dropping off a lot worse than our fuel is. My stint, when I had to come in, because my tires were off, I could still do another, I think it was sort of 8 laps, but tires were just shot.
Interesting. And are you running in map 1?
I went to map 2. All the other guys were running map 1.
That doesn't surprise me. The Mercedes does melt through tires, so it doesn't quite surprise me. But that's what I'm always curious about. Is especially without the mandatory stint timers here in this 10 hours of Silverstone. How people are managing their pit stops. So that's interesting to hear, and I'm curious to potentially find out if other teams doing the same. And maybe Alan.
So we wanted to try and push. Yeah, we wanted to push till hopefully tank empty with maybe an engine lap 2. But when we start comparing to the amount of time we're losing per lap to maybe just rather pit and gain it back. I started to lose between 1.5 to 2 seconds towards the end of my stint, just because of the tires. So we made the call. So now we changed the strats up completely. So I think we're going to have an interesting sort of last half of this evening's race.
How many
can I-
stints
can
you
I-
still
can I-
gotta do?
I think we might end up doing 8, to be honest. But that's
Just
if...
to put a here, guys, that was a battle on track for position there for the 919 as well. It just made
21st.
A little bit of a mix-up there, but they did make position. So this is battle for position watching for this team as well.
So what I also wanted to just ask there, whilst also just noting that, was with this strategy to put now when the tires drop off. I mean, surely then your number of pit stops, you're not getting the maximum out of your car. So even with, let's say you had 7 laps to go, if you were to lose, a second per lap, you're still never going to make up that 30 seconds that it takes to preserve and change the tires there. So, like, do you feel that in your pit strategy now, I mean, you've seen it work out, are you
The gap
making
in
up
front is
positions
increasing.
in the
It's now
strategy, or is it
9.3
not
seconds.
working?
So at the moment, it looks like it is a bonus, but we'll see fully on the next stint due to the changes we've made, because we should gain, actually, with what we're doing next, we should gain maybe an additional half a second to a second per lap to run. If all goes well and the tires are feeling good towards the end of the stint, we might try to push a few more laps, but we're more concerned of spinning out with the soft tire, basically.
Okay.
So what is your guys' goal for the end of the race then?
When we started, it was to get top 10. Now it's just to go as far as we can and maybe catch up to like 15th or even 14th where we first started. Because that would be a win for us then. You start 14th, then 14th. I don't want to go backwards. I always want to rather go forward. So that's the plan.
All right, Craig. Well, buddy, good luck
Thank you
with the
very
rest
much.
of the race. Thanks for coming in and having a chat with me regarding this gaming thing. So,
It's only a pleasure.
good stuff, man. We'll chat again.
Thanks, James. Chat soon.
Cheers.
Bye.
Car right.
So the Flying Gypsies
Clear right.
continuing out on their adventures, hoping to get
Car
themselves
right.
back to where they started
Clear right.
into the top 15 and up towards the front. Gregor
21st.
he certainly started to find a little bit more rhythm into his lap times, but it's not enough to hold off the likes of what Sherman Tinsky is dropping down. So that gap that he's got is being eaten into. A 5-second time penalty going against the grip hacks in number 81. That's also going to work into the favor of the Retro boys leading the race. So everything is playing out right now for Retro. They're trying to extend out that gap to the point where they can hand this over to their quick drivers again. Consistency will have worked out and they'll be able to then start to build up that gap that they had. I mean, we saw what Daniel Rowe managed to do. Yes, there was a lot of on-track battle for P2, 3, 4 at the time, but the drivers that are still lined up in that number 43 car certainly have some beans. And here for the 81, they've got their driver that seems to be quickest at the moment at Silverstone at the wheel. Versace for White Rabbit Gaming in 3rd place. They certainly dropping off in terms of the pace that they had originally to the 2-second lap times last indicated. And this is the BWR team that I've been keeping an eye out for the longest period of time. Just kind of lurking out. Hasn't really been featured in too many battles, but Jan Spanners, he's been someone that in the race face leagues that I've been doing, I've just been watching this man start to impress and improve all the time. For me, that's what it's all about, seeing people start from somewhere and start to make a name for themselves. So seeing the BWR teams starting to reconcile their best of their best and get towards the front end of the order, it's incredible for sim racing, and it continues to push all the teams to not get complacent and continue to work. So big work from them. And then rounding out the top 5, of course, the guys from the PlayStation community jumping over to PC. A lot of logistical nightmare teams are entered in here.
Still
Shout
there.
out to them for participating. They share all of our
Still there.
PC-related stuff on their Discord.
Clear right.
We are looking to get into
B26.
sim racing on the console side of things. Oh, that rejoin just gave me literal flashbacks to now. That could have been dangerous for Ruan van der Moten.
It looks like it worked out for him in the end, though, because the 101 Bentley looks like they had to kind of slam on the brakes just a little bit. They lost just a touch of time as that PWR team is slowly catching up to P5, but they did lose a couple of tenths off of that region with a touch of the brakes there. But I would not be surprised to see these guys right up on the back of them very soon. You can see just how close they're getting already. Here they come across the start-finish line to start leaders lap 100, which should be these cars at lap 99, as these cars are a lap down, as we saw earlier when we were watching the fight. P2, P3 came on past, so most of this field is a lap down. I believe it's
The gap ahead is now 14 seconds.
That are on the lead lap. The 27 car is a lap down as well. My time is load for me, but Sherman Tinsky is still reeling in a little bit on Grayling. Of course, that 5-second penalty is gonna catch them. I believe they are in the steward's box at the moment, trying to figure out what exactly that penalty is for. They have a little bit of stuff in the back marker, so perhaps we may see that fall away at some point, depending on what the steward's decisions are.
Yellow flag is set to 2.
Just report on what their decisions are. Mark Stein here, your boy here, Alan, he is catching up. He's looking like he wants to go on the hunt before he makes a pit stop.
Yeah, he's definitely picked up the pace. They did have, just reading the private messages, they had more contact on one of the overtakes and picked up in 2 seconds there. So a little bit of a rubbing up, but his last lap time 2:01.0 before that at 2.0. So Marcus is on the pace and doing well. Interesting to see Shubatinsky further up, getting a 5-second penalty added for a bit of rough driving. So, and great to see that the marshals or the stewards at least are monitoring all through the field for any incidents that are reported. So nobody can complain about it not being a managed racing. Yeah, all going well so far.
I was just going to say, every single one of these drivers are just trying to push the boundaries. And taking a look, we've got Myberg with a 10-second penalty, and we've also got Ivan with a 5-second penalty. It's just everyone trying to find where the limits are.
The gap behind is now decreased to 13 seconds.
Towards the grass in some cases and touching it. So I think drivers are starting to feel the race as it carries on now, but it's going to be interesting towards the end. The battle for 5th and 6th, I think we're going to see a massive change up fairly soon between these two.
I think so as well. I mean, 7th place is pretty far back from these guys at this point. I mean, we can see with the timing stream.
There's a white flag.
Quite far back from P6, P8, the M-Bon there for P18, about 12 seconds back from P7, P9 about the same. I mean, these guys are pretty spread out at this point. Bruce Hugo in that 4.14, he has actually made up a couple positions. Earlier, I believe we were speaking about him, I believe I was saying he was P14, currently P10, and he's currently on the hunt. P9 does have a penalty, however, so perhaps it might play in Bruce's favor. Keep cautious, not make any forward moves, and get
right side's clear.
Contact in their P9 as they know they will make that up in the pit stop. But looking down the field, most of these guys are pretty spread out. 10 to 15, if not more seconds distance. This is our closest fight on field at the moment, other than what we were looking for in P9 and P10. And speaking of which, Curtis Hugo did just make up that place in P9 as Myberg in the 505 Bentley makes his way in the pit lane. Here comes P5 and P6 across the start-finish line to start their lap 101. We've been watching this for a couple laps. Stein is making up that little bit of time, inch by inch, trying to wheel Vanderwalt in here as George Smith bringing us all of these different camera angles just so we can see. This Silverstone circuit is pretty flat across all of here. I mean, as we go through Maggots here and then into Beckett's, you can see how flat this track is. You can really get sideways if you're not careful, touching over these anti-cut curbs. But as they're going to come out of Chapel Curve and onto the Hangar Straight, Bentley going to be deep into the slipstream. He's going to pick up another 10th here as he's coming down the straight, and it's just a matter of time before he's right on that bumper as they approach one of these braking zones. This BWSR 101 team is going to be able to make a move. Not this time by, however. Going to have to wait at least one more lap. We can see inch by inch, guys, make his way back up.
It's interesting to watch the Bentley. Coming into turn 1, he did come off the throttle quite a bit to try and keep the car stable, where the Aston was able to go a little bit deeper. But in the back end parts of the section, where it gets a little bit more tighter, the Bentley is straight onto the back, very, very late on the brakes, and gains up a lot of time. As you can see, he's on the same going late on the brakes, just getting ahead, and now he's just going to get the power on to try and pull away from Van der Vault. Van der Vault's not going to let it go. He's going to keep on the charge, try to get into the toe. So LNR versus PWSR, but it looks like the big Bentley is now starting to stretch its legs.
Gets the work done quite nicely as well. Out through the exit of entry, carried a lot of speed and will give himself a couple of car lengths. So doesn't immediately have to go defensive either. So Marcus staying with a nice, good read of the drive in front, and has timed that perfectly to make sure that the number 101 gets away safely.
The guy in front is
continue up
Strauss.
towards the chase now of the likes of Spammers. Sheventinsky eating into the lead of Kraling as we continue to just kind of plan out and see when Kraling is going to come into the pits. He's still got a lot of buffer coming down. We saw that the WRG team driver switch took place. Bruno Kedili back in the car of the 666 out into third place. That does allow Spammers to get themselves 8 seconds down the road from Bruno. So up towards the front of the order, still very, very close between everybody. And we look down the order, there's really relatively big gaps between everybody, starting to just settle themselves in. And a reminder to our viewers that there's only one split running here today. So all the entries here, a bit of a mixture of classes of drivers and team abilities, so makes for some interesting racing. The faster guys have had to navigate through the field of some of the back markers, and the back markers have had to plan their own racing whilst getting caught up and having to give space where they have to. It's a difficult scenario to be in. Any contact, the stewards are here, and over the duration of 10 hours to keep the gaps like this between the fields, it's a good showing from a mixed variety of drivers.
But that's it, George. I'd just like to point out here, besides for those couple of issues,
B25
tonight, these units have been incredibly clean. Both blue flag cars and overlapping cars. We've seen minor issues in this. Obviously, Sherman-Tinsky's and that 81 Bentley, their penalty came from a bit of a scuffle with a back marker, but for the most part, we've seen this be really clean. We watched for quite a while Arno in the 666. Arno was just over at E-Car for quite a bit of lap traffic. We were watching him for a few laps, and it was all very respectful racing. So these guys might be different skill levels, but you can tell that there's a lot of respect on track between the drivers, as well as making sure that everybody wanting to stay stable, knowing that this is a long race. There's still 6.5 hours left. I feel like I feel like we've been here all day already, and there's still 6.5 hours of racing to go. And the racing is not going to stop. I think it's going to be exciting all through the rest of this. We're at least going to have somebody fighting right to the end.
Take a look at the track drop.
on your right. Still there.
Down slightly as we got
Right side's clear.
38 minutes past 3 in-game time. So now it comes into, as it gets cooler and cooler, you've got to start playing around with tyre pressures. But you don't want to go too low or too high on tyre pressures, as you can take out your tyres getting around the back markers as well. Punctures are a thing in the sim. And
gap to Strauss ahead is increasing. It's now 9.1 seconds. Yellow flag, can you wait about you, mate? White flag.
Is the track conditions are changing as we're heading towards more the late afternoon, early evening.
Yeah, 3.5 hours done. Those teams that
Blue flag.
currently
Ooh.
Freyland, etc. Shubitinsky and Emilius will see a turnaround.
Time to declare from to sector
B21.
Great stuff. Okay, there's also a bit of contact here with the engine. But yes, as the temperature drops, as you say, pressures are going to alter. I was aware of this. I'm still just watching that cloudy sun and cloud motion. Thanks for the replay.
242, by the way, that came in.
And that, and I mean, that was for
racing.
They're full position, so he does give the position back there, you see. But you know, a little panzerino like that on your rear splitter, downforce at the back being implicated, it can cost you a lot more than just getting a position back. You know, that car now might have you know, damage coming down, and for the Flying Gypsies, it's not what they would have wanted to have. So, unfortunate circumstance. Looks like Strauss caught up in some battle for position in traffic here. I mean, there's just cars all abreast. It looks like the the other McLaren in the midst here for the position, the number 17 in front as they go through Stowe, making their way past that number 57, our lone solo 10-hour driver in that Lamborghini Richardson, gives way and stays wide and allows the chase down to begin between the McLarens, and LaRue and Strauss here making their way through traffic, still trying to push each other. This is the racing that we want to see, and couldn't be better when you're matched in equal machinery. It's all down to the driver, and I guess what state of tires you're in at that phase.
And nobody can speak towards Aero more at this point than the PWSR team.
Whoa!
I mean, like
Whoa! The dive.
That was close.
The 10 car going very late on the brakes, knew better. He knew that he was about ready to hit that 17 car, dove out to the side,
and that's what
saving that hit to happen.
I mean, it's that kind of awareness, right? That you always want to see, saying like, oh, damn, the abort came down in the right direction, didn't go towards the apex, which would have collided with the car, pulled out, made sure that he was safe, and you know, he knows as the pace, so can just settle back in and try and put the pressure on once again. But Mike LaRue just putting this car in the right place, definitely making Strauss feel like the pressure is mounting up, because you know, you want the driver behind to be missing his braking points, you want him to be in his own head, and he's now going to doubt himself. He doesn't want to follow as closely, and he's going to have to plan things up. LaRue with a 15-second time penalty to his name. Strauss must know this, knowing that even if he just follows along safely, when that car goes into the pit box, he's still going to come out on top, because that extra 15 seconds, you know, that's for free. So you don't have to take the biggest risks.
No, exactly.
I think at that, Strauss didn't only utilize using the carbon brakes. He decided engine braking is a thing, and was looking for the cord to pull the parachute at that very point. And
downshift.
Parachute. It was quite a way to go past. If he pulled it off, I would be highly surprised, but he needs to shake off that little bit of a fright and get back into it, which he's done. He's now pulled himself very, very close, and he has to try and make a plan. This is the thing, you can so easily make a mistake, but what you need to do is, if you make a mistake, if something does go wrong, shake it off, get back in the rhythm and keep going. Don't let it harbor, otherwise it's going to mess your laps up, lap after lap after lap. And I think that's one thing that we've also need to touch on, is we've seen little collisions all over the show, and frustration is a thing that does kick in and does become a thing. So it's all about shaking it off and get going. But Strauss is on a hard press charge now in the slipstream, trying to get pulled along, and you can see LaRue just trying to break him from that slipstream. Not going to be easy to do. We've seen Strauss, he loves mounting the pressure on, he loves going for those late breaks. He's very happy in the McLaren at the moment, so he is doing everything possible. LaRue going very defensive, holding that inside line, trying to get away. Strauss gets a better exit though, gets it to the toe, and loses out time.
Yeah, I mean, Strauss getting a little bit of oversteer there, drifting and managing to save it, but it does cost him some time, so that's unfortunate as he continues to, I mean, after picking up that kind of a mistake, he's already all on the back end of that 17, so he knows how to take the entry into T1. He knows how to master Stowe, and now if you maggots Beckett's, you can really put pressure on the driver in front of you, hit that inside apex, and this is what Strauss has done here. This is a run, this is a good run. Someone rejoining the race circuit, they've made use of the escape road, but these two McLarens, they don't give a damn about this. They're dragging it down, coming down into the right-hander. Sorry, this is Stowe that they're coming down into now at the end of the hanger straight. And the inside line is there. I think the number 10 just making that. Whoa, big snapback as well. Going to slip it. And it's going to allow LaRue to slip back in front of him. And that is what it's all about, making sure you get the move done and getting it done completely. And Strauss not managing to do that. That allows LaRue a little saving grace. And he will continue to just be a little bit of a nuisance here. It feels like Strauss knows that he's got some speed, knows that he can get past, but just certainly catching up to a drive is one thing, making them in